Good afternoon.
Nothing, sir.
I only have one thing to report. We have a couple of pieces of equipment that are out for service. One of them is the street sweeper. It will be back tomorrow. And we're barring the rain, it will be back on the road for it. The other is the mower, which is in the shop for diagnosis, and we have a loaner, so we're not short of equipment. That's all I have. Any questions?
Anybody have anything for Mr. John? Thank you very much, Mr. John.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have the report from Mr. Gilbert Ozine. Mr. Ozine's on vacation, so I'm gonna read his report for him. His report is, we cut 5 trees and grinded the stumps. We grinded an additional stumps. Trimmed trees at East Park for Southern Constructors and at Parks and Recreation. Season is here for cutting grass. They rebuilt 5 catch basins, assisted EL Habits with the washout on Mill Street, filled potholes, and picking up litter. And that's what he had on his report. Any questions or comments? Next, we'll go to Mr. Tim Maynard, City Engineer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe you all have a copy of my engineer report. And I have several action items in my report. The first of which begins on page 2. The subject would be the drainage and street improvements projects. If you turn to page 3, I have an update there on the drainage improvements project that Southern Constructors is in the middle of at this time. I have partial payment estimate number 10. We did not get the March numbers in time for me to fill in those blanks. And so I would ask that you refer this partial payment number 10 to your regular meeting next week for me to fill in the blanks and ask for your approval.
Okay, I'll make the motion to move as read. Seconded by Mr. Willard. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Next item would be on page 4. This would be the citywide street improvements project. Action item begins on the bottom of page 4 at the letter G. I'm presenting to you this afternoon the plans and specifications. These are the specification documents, plan documents. These will be in Joan's office between now and next Wednesday if anybody wants to go and take a look at them. What I'm asking you to do is adopt the resolution, which is on the following page, which will approve the plans and specifications and authorize the advertisement for bids for that project, contract A.
Moved by Mr. Overland, seconded by Mr. Willard. Discussion?
I'll add, if everything goes according to our plan, we would take bids on May 28th. That gives us the time to advertise. But between now and the next meeting in June, we will hopefully come to you at the June meeting with recommendation to award contract.
Okay, and just be clear, this is for all the streets in Crowley,
This is for contract A, which is about half the streets.
half the streets. But we are planning on doing all the streets.
We will do all the streets. What we did, if you remember, is we did the drainage in the same area that contract A streets is in. So we get the drainage out of the way. And by the time this contract A is underway, the drainage will move to the area of contract B streets.
Mr. Foley?
I have a question.
You might.
In the past, some of the driveways, they use like a half of a pipe to facilitate drainage when they had to, when the drop off the drive was too abrupt. Are things like that going to be addressed in this street overlay?
Absolutely. In fact, I did mention to you that at the back of my report under attachment E is a letter where we cover several subjects. I wouldn't expect you to go through it and absorb it in this meeting, but you have plenty of time now, next week. But we address, if you look at the letter, it's dated April 7th, to Mayor Tim Monson, City Council. And the second item on the first page of the letter is existing curb and gutter, I call them inserts and driveways, we refer to them just as you did, half pipes. In contract day, there are somewhere around 20 to 30 of these half pipes that were inserted in people's driveways on curb and gutter type streets, where they apparently had a rough ride into their driveway or out of their driveway. So, these half pipes, my half pipe is cut half the long way. They're placed in the gutter, and then cold mix or hot mix asphalt is placed on top of those so that the ride is smooth. We need to remove all of those. Our plan is to not put them back. And we're gonna set them aside. The city force is gonna deal with it, because we believe that once the new streets are milled, we're gonna be milling off asphalt and adding asphalt, so we don't build up too big a lip on the edge of the curb and gutter roads. Some of these may not have the problem with the ride in and ride out that they did, that created the need for something there. So when the contractor is at that location, he's gonna remove the half pipes, gonna set them aside, and then we're gonna deal with that owner between the mayor's office and the street crew and see who needs improvement there. We are recommending against half pipes. It's probably the easiest thing for the city to do, because they have a welder cut the pipes, put them in place, and then cold mix. But the half pipe turns out to be something less than about a 4-inch drainage pipe. And it gets clogged with silt and obstructions, and pretty soon you have a gutter that doesn't drain very well. What we would recommend is that you look into, my choice is there are these prefabricated, it's like a rubber type substance. You have one that can be placed according to how big a driveway you have. We're also recommending that, I think it's consistent with the policy of the city to allow that to happen if the resident purchased the material, and in this case, if it's this type of insert, it's not that difficult to put in the gutter. But I wouldn't suggest that you continue the practice of the city buying and installing these ramps. The other thing that you may want to look into is a steel plate. Again, the steel plate requires a little bit more attention of bolting it down, that kind of thing. I prefer what you have, and I think it works quite well. The main thing I like about it is it's easy to take it out and clean the gutter and put it back on. So, yes, sir, we are addressing that.
Thank you.
Sure. And if you would, please look at the rest of the letter that I referred to at the back of my report. I get into subjects such as public routes. Also, the median of East Hutchinson is something that I think we need to consider doing a little differently than just overlaying. But funding may be a question, a problem. The paving of East and West Andrews Streets, what our plans are for that. And then the removal and replacement of storm drainage crossings, how we plan on handling storm drain crossings that are out there that we're not gonna know whether that existing crossing needs to be replaced until we get out there and see what the condition on top of the crossings are. So if you would, please look at that letter and contact me between now and next Wednesday if you have any questions.
Ms. Ringdale?
Thank you. I like the beard, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Will the drainage project be complete before we start on the street project, or
Yeah.
it'll be mostly?
In the half that's contract A, yes.
Okay. So so half of the drainage project will be complete?
It happens that more than half is the portion that's in the street contract A, but we won't have a problem with overlaying streets in the contract A area because of the drainage improvement that's not finished.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Court?
And, Tim, basically the boundaries of section A to be overlaid, can you give general boundaries where it's gonna be from US 90 to Clarkson, gotta go and watch a detail.
It is in the plan, if you want to see more specifically, but it's bounded on the north by contract A is bounded on the north by Northern Avenue, on the west, beginning at Northern and Parkinson, along Parkinson southward, to Mill Street. And so it basically is gonna consist of all of South Crowley and a portion of East Crowley. And again, if you wanna look at it, it's on this second plan sheet, please stop by and take a look at it.
And that'll be in Joan's office as well.
Yeah, this is gonna all be in one. We set that division line to try to make those two contracts nearly equal in value, and they're very close in value.
Anybody else got any questions for Mr. Mayor? And Mr. Martin?
Sorry for being late, traffic was kind of rough out there. Tim, I don't know if anybody addressed the elephant in the room yet about the drainage, about these culverts. We in public works, right?
Right.
Okay. We have a few constituents out here that's been having problems. Let's face it, they're having problems. Did this council vote to go along with the Abbeville ordinance?
Yes.
That's the question. Why in the hell aren't they doing the damn job? Why is it every time we vote on the ordinance, which is law, there's always seems to be some type of discrepancy, telling constituents, oh, you gotta buy new pipes. What the hell, whether it's a new pipe or an old pipe, long as it fits. In our stipulation, did we say they have to buy new pipes? Why would that be said? Told them.
We're gonna have to be 15 inch.
With all due respect, I just use the term, long as it fits. If it's 15, it's 15. Whether it comes from Saudi Arabia or comes from China, it doesn't matter.
That's my question, I'm asking the mayor if it was that for city ordinance was made a while back before our term to be 15 inch, correct?
Right.
It's 15, and the ordinance refers to the specifications. The pipe has to be able to withstand a load on top of it, if it has minimal backfill, that kind of thing.
But the size of the pipe is not the issue. The issue was we have constituents being told that we don't install used pipes. What the hell? How does a machine know whether it's used or new? Okay? And I'm gonna ask again, why haven't, and I'm gonna talk to you, yes, and that's, is your administration, why haven't the pipes been installed?
We are, Mr. Martin, we are preparing, but I would be.
Preparing?
I would like if you would be a little more specific. I would like for you to be a little bit more specific, and you're talking about used pipe. Used pipe, are they damaged?
Well, no, wait a minute, I'm pretty sure nobody's gonna buy a damaged pipe.
Well,
Okay,
I would assume.
I never used the term used damaged pipe, I said a used
I
pipe.
understand, I
Okay.
understand.
Long as the seals meet, it's
As long as we can inspect it
Okay,
and
correct.
deem that it
Okay.
could be usable.
all right, but even to that point, I don't think anywhere in that ordinance, they say, oh, by the way, all citizens have to buy new pipes. Okay? And that's been hit on me at least about 3 times, and I'm like, no. Well, still, we watched the meeting, and you were adamant about the pipes, so we coming to you. Hell, I know if you're not putting in the pipes. So I'm asking the question, why haven't the pipes been installed? People are lining up, I mean, before you know it, we're gonna have about 100 constituents trying to get pipes in, and they ain't no work gonna be done. How you gonna pick and choose now? So I'm asking the question, why haven't they been installed?
We are doing that, Mr. Mayor, sorry, Tim. Mr. Martin?
Well, I would like to have a list of all the pipes that have been installed to whomever house,
Sure. Absolutely.
you know? So that way I can use that as a lever to tell people, okay, yes, we are installing pipes, here's the list. I think everybody should have that.
Absolutely, but we do have, not just pipes, we do have many other jobs that we are doing.
But Mayor, I do understand that.
Well, what do you do?
Yeah, but, I never one time say pipes are the only thing that the city does.
That's correct.
But it's one thing that the city does not do. Okay? That's what I'm worried about. I'm not worried about what the city does. I'm worried about what they don't do. Every taxpayer out there pays taxes. Okay? It took us months to come up with an ordinance that we, approved. All right, I was one of the ones that took part in this legislation as far as these callers are concerned. All right, I made sure that my words were known, and Tim, if you remember back in the days, I told everybody, It's a public service that we do for the people. Now we charging $1 a foot, am I right?
15-inch.
For 15-inch pipe, mandatory 15-inch pipe. Well, if the citizen took the heat and went buy the pipe, and I know those pipes are expensive, okay? And they willing to pay that $1 a foot, and they calling to put them in, why aren't they being put in? That's the only question I have.
And I think I answered it. But to give you a more
No,
specific,
I don't
to give
think
you a
you
more
did.
specific reason, Mr. Martin,
I'm sorry.
if you're aware of it, but even though we voted on it, the minutes still have to be signed, it has to be processed, and then it's officially done. And
Yeah,
then that was done a couple of weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken.
well, man, it was done a couple of weeks ago, they should have been working a
But
couple of weeks ago.
I'm not gonna get into technicalities with you about the law.
That's not a technicality,
But
but,
anyway, I gave you my
I don't think
reasoning,
you
Mr.
want
Martin.
to with me about the law.
I gave you my reasoning, Mr. Martin, and that's my reasoning.
And I'm gonna tell you, it's an unacceptable reason.
Well,
in my opinion.
that's you unacceptable.
Okay,
Thank you.
do your job.
Not like I'm doing my job. Thank you very much.
I doubt it. Okay, I'm good.
Any other discussion? Motion was made, second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I have an item that begins on page 5, the city-owned parking lot improvements. If you turn to page 6, I have partial payment estimate number 1. We were able to get the figures for me to have you fill in those blanks. Partial payment estimate number 1, if you'll see at the item I, as of March 31st, the contract was 21% complete by time. Want to fill in that blank? 7% complete by cost. Partial payment estimate number 1 estimates that the total value of work done through March is $160,731.10. 160,731.10. We are going to retain $8,036.56 for labor and material liens. So the total amount due for partial payment estimate number 1 is $152,694.55. It's 152,694.55.
Move. Move.
Motion moved by Mr. Martin, seconded by Mr. Ford. Discussion, I think they did such an outstanding job on that parking lot and at the tennis complex that we ought to round that up to $695 instead of $700. That's my opinion anyway, but it really looks fantastic. Any discussion?
What was the first percentage number?
21.
21% by time and 7% by cost.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
I just want to say that Kim, the recommendation to preserve those crepe myrtles was very good. That does a lot toward making that parking lot in particular very aesthetic and pleasing. I have no other action items, and I'll be happy to answer any questions now or between now and Wednesday on any of the other updates throughout the rest of the engineer's report for public works. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
And that's all the action items. Under discussion items, I would like an update on the replacement of street signs, and the reason why I put this on the report was, I had the opportunity to ride a lot of the streets in our ward, and it's hard to know where you are a lot of times. You have to back up and go forward and try to find the street sign. And what really got to me was, one of my constituents actually told me that he called the city for street signs, and he was actually brought 2 blank signs. And I saw them, I took a picture of them, this is no joke. And they said, here, put whatever you want on the signs, and we'll put them up. And I wouldn't have believed it, but I do have a picture, if anybody doubts it. But anyway, so I'd like an update. I know we've discussed this before, and I think we have $5,000 in the budget, or we did have. I don't know if there's anything left in there or not, if we need to appropriate some more money, or maybe some of this FEMA money will help out. But we really need some street signs in the city. It's really bad. So, Mr. Mayor, could you update
Yes,
us on street
absolutely,
signs?
absolutely. We've been working on this for a couple of months, and we're trying to get a list of every sign that's needed, and we're hoping to change all of the street signs in the city of Crowley. I'm currently looking at proofing some street signs, making sure that they are what we're looking for. And once we get approved, we'll issue a PO and we'll begin the process.
Great, and if we need to amend the budget, I know 5,000 is probably not gonna go very far.
Right.
And we have a lot of streets that need to be replaced. So,
That is exactly correct.
and a lot of them are probably damaged by the hurricanes too,
Yeah.
so maybe we could get some relief from that. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Stringo.
Thank you. Shouldn't we make sure how many need to be replaced before we start to bid them out and look at them?
That's what
We
we
probably
do.
need to.
That's
get
what
the
we do,
number
yes,
first.
ma'am. But since it's a state contract, they give us a certain price, and that's the best price you can get. And so once, it doesn't matter in that order, so since you have that price on it, that's the best price you're gonna get. So then, after that, the number will determine how much the total cost is.
And do we want to revisit, I know a lot of people have told me, oh, the city used to print their own signs, why can't they do it again? So do we want to revisit that, or is that not something that we want to get into again?
We did visit it, and it's not something we wanna get into.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, Ms. Martin?
When did we pass, for to have these signs replaced? How many years ago? Over a year?
Before we do, oh, you
I
mean,
mean, we
I'm
talked
talking
about
about
it,
this
talked about it about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. We were just told that, and I wanna make sure I heard, the right thing, that in the last couple of months, y'all been working on it? I'm just asking, that's what was told. So you saying that we passed this well over a year ago, Jeff, how long? Who brought it up?
right.
I brought it up.
How long ago was it?
It's been about 2 years.
Okay, 24 months, but yet, people, and I'm gonna say this like it is, those signs are there for a reason. If we have somebody coming into our city that's in danger, first thing they're told to, you got a 300-foot barrier to go one way or the other. Our blocks are 300 feet. Give your position and stay there. Now, how in the hell they gonna give a position if they ain't got no signs? When that was brought up, that was one of the most animate things that we had talked about for the simple reason, we had talked about putting some, special, dedication to, what was it, historical district, and back in the day, like I said, we had a machine that printed those signs in whatever color, shape, size you wanted, it was there. I don't know what happened to the machine, but it was taxpayers' money. So it was gotten rid of, that means somebody got rid of it without acknowledging other people. But Mayor, I'm gonna have to ask a question here, because basically, I know in our district, we have, and I'm not trying to be funny here, there's some people that love the sign so much they take them down and put them in their house. But guess what? It's the city responsibility to put another one. Okay? So Mayor, I have to say this to you, man, I mean, I didn't think that would came out your mouth that within the last few months, we, started the process. So I would ask this, if possible. Councilwoman Stringfellow just came up with a point. How can you get bids on something that you don't have a number for? Do you have an actual number, how many signs that are listed in the city of Crowley?
Well, you as well as myself, I think you're very familiar with a government contract, right?
Mayor, I
I'm
guess
trying
I'm
to answer
very
your
familiar, I work government contracts all
I
the
know
time.
you do, and I'm trying to answer your question
Okay.
along with your knowledge as well.
Okay.
And I know that you realize that we have a state contract, right?
Right.
So that price is the best price that we're gonna get. So whether you have that price today or a month from now, it's irrelevant of how many you're gonna get, because the price remains the same unless the contractor, these people you're buying it from, raise the price. So if I got 10,000 of them right now at this price, if I have the same price a month from now, it's gonna be 10,000 again.
No.
5,000, it's a less price.
No.
It
Now,
doesn't,
Matt, I have to say this, and for all, and just for clarity, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be president of the Matt in a few months. I have to clarify.
and we appreciate
Listen to
your
me, the Matt does that.
Excuse me.
We does
Excuse me,
that,
Mr.
man.
Martin, excuse me.
We get signs every day.
Excuse me, Mr. Martin.
Okay, all right.
I did get the pricing from the company, and
Okay,
it is a state contract. And that is the best price that we can get. And if the market goes up in a month from now, and the market goes up in a month from now, I can't control the market. But we did get a price, a state contract price, and they are the bidders for a state contract.
and I agree with you 100%, but still, I
And
ask
that's
the
what I
question.
got. So the quantity is irrelevant now or in 2 weeks from now.
Mayor, once again, Tim, maybe you need to ask your question again. I yield to you to ask your question again.
Okay, if there's 10,000 signs that we need versus 5,000, the price will be different.
Oh, absolutely. If you change the quantity of how many signs you need, I just don't have,
Maybe find out.
I don't have that quantity yet. Yes, we will find out.
Can you yield back? Thank you. Yes, Mayor, I'm gonna give it to you. Mayor, but, I mean, I have to ask the question again. How many signs are missing in the city of Crowley?
I don't know that answer at this moment.
Thank you.
Just a second. State your name, please.
Desiree, I actually just have a point of clarification, and I guess it goes to the mayor, because we're having a conversation about number of signs and this and that, but I thought he said he wants to replace all the signs in town. So is it replace all the signs or just the missing signs?
I would love to be able to replace all of the signs in Crowley, but at the moment, we are going to get as many signs replaced as we possibly can with the budget we do have currently. But we're going to get a number of signs that need to be replaced, yes.
Okay, so.
And
it's
just for
only-
your clarification, there's $5,000 in the budget for signs. That's all that's in
Okay,
there
so we're
now.
not, at this point, not replacing all signs, we're just replacing some. And that's where we're working at.
Yes.
Okay, just wondering.
Mr. Core?
Mayor, if we're gonna replace some signs, as you know, we have different designs, sizes within the
Yes.
city, whether you're in the historic district, if you're in Beauvoir, or in other areas. How are we gonna be replacing those? Will they all be replacing, the same design that was existing? Or are we coming up with a new design to start?
The only difference, like on West Hutchinson, there are a lot of signs that were printed out with that label machine on West Hutchinson. They're old, they're worn out, they're done. But we're gonna come back with the same design. But the person who was giving us the price is gonna put the same design as it was. The one in the historic district were very dark, very difficult to read, so we were gonna put a white background with black letters, very bold and vivid, to where people can actually see them. Even those signs may halfway look good, but they're very, very difficult to see, and they're not reflective at night.
No, and I totally agree with you, and in fact, some of the signs, the green ones are very, low in
Yes, sir.
height,
And
and
we're gonna,
less wind resistant, but when you get the larger ones, like the historic district, they're subject to being bent over a lot with strong winds.
that's
So,
correct. And so
Also, that's.
we're changing the brackets as well. We're going to a different bracket to where it would be more, or should I say, stronger for the wind.
Thank you.
That was the recommendation of the sign company.
State your name, please.
Richard Hughes. Got a question about the signs. It's been going on for a little bit now, I imagine. Who is actually doing the count of the signs?
Some people from our street department.
Okay, and do they have a time frame? I mean, this can go on forever if they don't have enough time to get a list together.
Right, I think that list hopefully is gonna be together by tomorrow.
Okay. Just,
Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the signs?
One other thing,
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Mr.
Mayor,
Core.
what about, we're talking about street name signs, but we also have a lot of signs, for traffic signals, stop signs, and so forth.
Those will be changed as necessary.
Okay, great.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next on the discussion items is, I would like an update on open positions in the street department. I think this kind of goes back to what you were talking about, Steph, that I was told that there's only 7 street workers right now trying to take care of the whole city, and if they're trying to install culverts, count signs, cut grass, and do everything, that's a daunting task. So, Mr. Mayor, do you have any updates on the open
Yes,
positions?
we actually have 11 people, and there's 2 positions that are open, and we're looking at trying to replace them.
Okay, and that's all we have on the public
first up, Tim Crater, wastewater superintendent report. If he is.
Tim Prater is currently at a class.
Okay, well, nothing was given to me for that report, so, I guess everything's going well, if you know there's a problem, you can talk. Tim, Crater, Tim made it before you go into yours, did Tim give you any, information? Oh, man, I didn't recognize you.
She liked it, you know
I
what?
didn't say I didn't like it, I just said I didn't recognize it. Did he give you any information that you wanted?
Nothing outstanding.
Okay, good. Well, with that being said, we'll go to, Tim Mason, city engineer.
Okay, now, I think I can make this short because I have no action items. All my updates are there in red and yellow. And again, if you have any questions about anything in particular, I'll be glad to answer them over the next 7 days.
Anybody have any questions, Tim, as far as what they see? Everything's pretty much routine with, the report. I don't think, you don't have any, burden situations that come up at any time soon.
Nothing that I know of.
With that being said, we'll go ahead, and ask the question, is any other, members who come before the field? Anybody from the audience? Any questions? That being said, we'll recess.
Thank you. Recreation, Mr. Kramer was not here. Mr. Kramer?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll open up the Recreation Committee. Here, when is President Executive Primo. First off, we will start off with reports. Mr. Peter Kirsch, Recreation Director.
Good evening. Our baseball and softball registration for our youth league is finished. The numbers are close to double than what we were last year. We're really excited about that. Our practices will start within about 2 weeks, and our recreation programs will follow early May, going into June. We've hosted 2 tournaments so far on the available fields that we've had to use at the complex, which was about 5. The first weekend was a 3-day tournament. First night was a high school girls tournament. We had 14 high school teams in Crowley, teams like Zachary, Iowa, Moss Bluff, Sam Houston, I'm sorry, Jennings, Iota, from all over the place. And then Saturday, we got into the youth boys tournament. We had 27 teams. That gave us 41 the first weekend, Saturday and Sunday. We had teams from Lake Charles, Sulphur, Pineville, the home of Thibodeau area, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Prairieville, Gonzales. It was just really nice to see the kids on the field and people from out of town visiting Crowley and the buzz that the turf had created. We took last weekend off because of the holiday, and this weekend we're slated for 80 teams in Crowley. We expect all 9 fields, and there's nothing that at this point tells us that we can't use all 9 fields. This weekend we'll have 5 of the 9 fields lit. The lighting is what we're waiting for on the rest of the project, and I expect that to be wrapped up in about 2 to 3 weeks. Again, we have teams from the New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Central Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana area coming to Crowley. They're excited. The biggest buzz that we've heard in the park, other than the turf, was just the fact that they loved that we left the feel of the park. The green spaces were highlighted, and that the teams could spread out, get out of the heat. They felt that some of the newer facilities that were built in the area were not as inviting as ours. And the other thing that we've heard was that they don't have to get off the interstate and continue through an hour's fight of traffic to get to the other complexes. I don't want to call out any other cities, but we know that traffic in parishes east of here is not fun right now. So it's been a success, and people are liking it. The new tennis court parking lot is completed. It looks great. Glad we were able to keep the crepe myrtles. And I also have to add one off the old swimming pool area that was slated for parking. I have to say that at the beginning, I was gung-ho. We needed parking spots. But after the first couple of tournaments, seeing people spread out, the teams warm up, and I'm glad we left it, and it's just one of those little creature comforts of our facility that makes it unique. So, the work continues. Like I said, I'm hoping by the end of April, we're at 100% completion, and everything's ready to roll. Weather, I need about 2 more weeks of good weather, and we can get this thing knocked out. The Rice Festival building work, the renovation, is continuing. I'm expecting that to be wrapped up by the later part of this week, early next week. The new suspended ceiling looks great, the sound system is in, the painting is being completed, the LED lighting upgrades are great. Again, another week, and I hope we're 100% complete on that as well. And speaking of that, at this time, I'd like to submit partial payment number 3 to the committee for the amount of $87,044.40 to be paid to DL Habits Builders.
I move. I'll second.
It was by Mr. Bolton, seconded by Mr. Reggie. Any discussion?
What was the number one time?
$87,044.40.
It's under the action items.
Okay. Thank you.
No discussion, then, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Also, if you're passing down West Hutchinson in front of the Martin Luther King Center, you'll notice we got a fresh coat of paint on the exterior of that building. I think it looks good. I'd invite everybody to go take a look at it. We're getting some good reviews on that as well. We also had a little project done on the sheet metal in that building on the southern wall, above the bleacher area. We had all of that sheet metal resealed. We had some leaking issues going on there, and we'll have to replace a couple of exterior doors once we can get the rain held out of there. I know that there's some action items under public buildings. I can wait to address that. I think there were some questions, or I can do it now.
I think that'll be coming up later.
Okay. The other thing is, we had a photographer out at Miller Stadium on Thursday of last week taking pictures of the stadium. He was with a production company out of California. They're contemplating doing a documentary on the old Southern baseball leagues, the Evangel League being part of that. And they were touring and looking at a lot of the old stadiums that were used, or what's left of those stadiums. And they said that from what they had seen so far from Mississippi and Alabama and Louisiana, that Miller was one of the best kept in the area. And I'm hoping to hear something in the next few weeks if that project goes through. So we may have Crowley in a movie. So they're pretty neat.
And following up on that, I had a discussion with Coach Pierce the other day, and I think, if you recall the guy, I think his name is Grisham or something like that does these books. I think his book is set to come out like right now.
I think it's
And
available on Amazon.
Coach Pierce had a pamphlet on it, but I think he wants to come to Crowley and do a book signing on that. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. I didn't get a chance to meet with him, but I will hopefully this week and maybe have an update on that too. But yeah, we're getting some publicity, that's for sure. Awesome.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Martin?
I know it's gonna be, the building part of it's gonna be discussed in public building. But you remember you and I had talked about the possibility of that walking track,
Yes, sir.
where it needs to be out there.
Okay.
I happened to go over there, I don't know if you was over there over the weekend, but, as far as the head count, maybe 500-600 people out there. And you know where I'm going next? Portable toilets, whatever, just ain't that. But I know that's coming up, so I'm not gonna get into that. But I know, you've been real busy. But you and I, we need to get together and we'll get with Byron and whoever else wants to come over and I think now's the time to get that water done.
Okay.
A lot going on the streets and the ladies are not feeling safe now. But I'll get with you with that and we'll discuss the other situation. Thank you.
Okay.
And I have one question for you, Peter. I know in your business plan, you were talking about 40 teams or so, and we get the concessions and we rent the field or exceeding your expectations or not exceeding your expectations of so far? I know the first weekend, you gave me a number that, what y'all made off just concessions, and it was pretty encouraging to me, but how's it going? I know there's a lot of people worried about, I know the note will be coming up pretty soon, or the rental will be coming up pretty soon, so how's it going in your mind?
Everything is, I mean, the concession sales have exceeded what I thought. The biggest surprise is not with concessions in the tournaments. I mean, obviously that's exceeding. I had a number in my head for the first tournament that I was hoping for, and I would have been tickled pink if we would have been $1 over that, and then the weekend we were double. So, and then the next weekend, those numbers were right back with the first weekend shows. And that was having one concession in half of our fields available. So this weekend, we have both of our concessions up and running and all fields going. And we're more than double the teams. We went from 41 the first weekend, but that was a 3-day. The second weekend, we were 30 teams over a 2-day. We'll be at 80 teams over a 2-day this weekend. So I'm expecting double what we did before. The biggest surprise has been high school baseball concessions. Our numbers are trending upwards from what we used to be with high school baseball. And you have to understand, and those of you who followed and followed your children, when you have a 6 or 7 year old child that's playing, you got parents, grandparents, siblings, aunts, uncles. Well, as that child progresses and we get 8, 10, 12 years down the road, mom will meet dad at the park, or dad has to work, grandparents will catch the game close to home, so the attendance starts to fall, so your concessions fall a little bit. But we've gotten a lot of interest, and we don't just play one game a night hardly anymore. It's double headers. This past Monday after Easter, the kids were out of school, but we had a JV game. We had 4 JV games that started at 2 o'clock on a Monday afternoon. The park was full. Miller Stadium had 3 games. Heritage hosted the game that evening. And again, we've never had high school baseball going on Tuesday afternoon or Monday afternoon at 2 o'clock before. This is all attributed to the turf project. I've got a laundry list of coaches that are jockeying for position because we have a threat of rain tonight. And we're in the middle of district for the baseball. And they're jockeying for PowerPoints and playoffs. And I've got 6 coaches on hold that if somebody backs out, we want to come. And it's out of parish, out of town teams. So it's because of the turf. So we're not affected. Mr. Clint, you were there last Wednesday. We caught a rain event. It was a 1-inch rain event. We caught an inch of rain in less than 30 minutes. An hour and a half after that, we're playing ball. And it required no extra work or material to get the field in condition. It's just a matter of let it stop raining and play. That rain event, we would have lost 2 days, and we would have probably had to have added hundreds of dollars of materials to get it turned over so we wouldn't lose a 3rd day. So it's things like that add up over time.
It was very enlightening to see yesterday. I was sitting in the press box, and people were walking to the park with their seats, and they were just coming. They didn't have kids playing there. They didn't have grandkids playing there. I know some of the people I saw, they were just neighborhood people walking to go see a ball game. And, that's what we need. We need people to get involved and start coming out and enjoying it as much as we do. So anyway, it's great. Ms. Ringo?
Do you have a schedule posted somewhere of all the games, or at least the high school games? You don't have that on the website, or?
I can put it on the website, and they can come to the Crowley website. We have it on our website now, but we can make sure that it's updated and ready to go, even with out-of-town teams.
Okay.
Mr. Cavell?
Here, with your expectations basically being doubled as far as your sales on your concessions, 2 things. Have you seen any issues with getting stock product?
Yes. COVID has hit the nacho world very hard. I'm not joking. We have run through 4 vendors this week to get nacho cheese and nacho chips. I never thought that I would stress over nachos. And look at me, I'm a guy that you would think would stress stress over not training. But, we've exhausted our locals, we have, Sam's, COVID, ring pops. I don't know what these kids love, it's hard candy mounted on a piece of plastic for $1. I don't know what they put in it, but we're obviously missing the boat on something, we can't keep it in stock, but our suppliers can't keep up. We had an idea, tournaments are not new to the recreation department. We've thrown all-star tournaments, and we've hosted upwards of 50, 55 teams before. I don't know what it is about this other group that we're doing business with now, this tournament model. These people eat. I mean, we ordered double what we were used to, what we would call a big tournament. We ordered the double amount of food. We know that it's not gonna go to waste because we have more high school baseball going on. And they ate us out of house and home the first weekend. And then we doubled again. And then they ate us out of house and home the second weekend. So we quadrupled down. We're busting at the seams, we're making it work, but listen, our Coke order this week, to put it in perspective, we ordered over 600 cases of product, water, cold drinks, and Powerade, sports drinks. Now, the good thing about that is, and that was why we kind of got away from the fountain drinks, it has a longer shelf life, and then if we find we don't need it, Coke gives us 100% return on it as long as we don't let it go out of date. And our concession ladies and they're very mindful of rotating stock and keeping up with that stuff. Hot chocolate, the first tournament. I don't know how many trips we made to Super One, Dollar General, and Walmart, and that was after we doubled what we thought we were gonna need. So it's amazing. It's amazing. We've upgraded our concession systems. We used to have a ticket system where, you go to one window, you buy a ticket, you go to the next window, you get your order filled. We've upgraded to a POS system, more of a restaurant style interaction. We can take debit cards, credit cards, Apple Pay, all of those things that help speed it up. And we still get bogged. It seems like everybody gets hungry right after a baseball game. But it helps the flow of things. And we're learning as we go. It's stressful. I won't lie to you. It's hard work. Our staff in the recreation department, my hats are off, how they put up with me and then continue to push through. Stress. It's great though. It's a good thing. The girls' tournament, to put things in perspective, we used to have a boys' tournament, all-star tournament. We would use 8 fields on a Saturday night. After the tournament was over, we would have to repair pitcher's mound, we'd have to repair batter's boxes, we'd have to repaint foul lines, repaint bases, drag infields. We had a lot of work to do that started after the tournament was over. That was about a 4-hour span, and then there was cleaning the park. We'd split the crew in half. So we had trash, then we had field work to do, and that was about a 4-hour process. So your last game ends at 10, you're not out there until about 2:30 in the morning. The first tournament we had, we used 5 fields. They were all high school softball. There's no pitcher's mound in softball. It's 60-foot bases. Well, we had 5 fields that were being played on at 8 o'clock Saturday morning that were different base sets. We had to move pitcher's mounds onto the field. We had to remeasure and do all that. Me and 3 guys had it done in 45 minutes. So it's a nice change of pace, and it's a welcome change of pace. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mark?
The problem that you have with the concession,
You might.
another one has my back to it. But anyway, that's fine. There's a way that you can do this. State law states that everything has a price. You ever thought, if we still do this, and when I tell it to you, you're gonna understand why. You got a lot of citizens that does a lot of travel. You got a lot of citizens that like to baseball, softball, whatever it might be. You ever thought about the donation trend? In other words, if you, let's say for instance, your upcoming event, you're gonna need X amount of, like you said, beverage, whatever, whether it be Coke or whatever. Well, put a monetary value on that. And if the citizens are willing to, it's actually a donation that they're making. And in doing the donation, is a seat in the park. You understand? The quid pro quo stands alone in the state. All right? Long as, is a value for a value. Okay? Some people say there's no value sitting in the stadium. Well, if someone rented that stadium and the cost to come in, yes, it is. But, the way you do it is very simple. You take the donations, you know, and tell them, okay, here's a ticket, I'll tell you what, I don't know if you have the slush fund, which I hope you do, because you need to have one. Let the citizens come in and advertise. We're running low on, pops or whatever, okay? Looking for donations of pops. Okay? You're not giving them any money. You're
Right.
giving them a ticket that they can use for whatever, okay? Whether they use it or not doesn't matter. But try that, and I guarantee you, your warehouse will stay full.
Yes,
Because
sir.
a lot of people use that method, we do it a lot in our nonprofit, okay? If we cook in, we'll donate some of the stuff that we cook, and we'll take care of it, you know what I'm saying? But you have to allow them to drink free now, you understand what I'm saying?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So basically, they're drinking their product, eating their product.
Gotcha.
And I'm pretty sure some of the citizens out there, I'm pretty sure y'all know what I'm talking about. It's a good way of keeping your stock, and it also brings a lot of people in. So, I mean, that's something you might wanna look at right now.
Yes, sir.
I mean, ask for donations and in turn, yeah, there's a big tournament coming up. I only have 20 seats left, you might have 500 seats, but tell me you only have 20. So the more you bring, the more we get.
Yes,
That's
sir.
the idea to keep you going with that, man.
Thank you.
Anything else for Mr. Kirsch? I can say, Peter, that's probably the most pleasant report we've had sitting at this council table in a couple of years. That's real encouraging to us to hear that. Thank you very much. Thank you for all your work.
Looking to fight it out and try to get it fixed.
Thank you.
Good for them.
Next up, we'll have Mr. Tim Mader with the city engineer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Co-Chairman, Mr. Assistant Chairman. Thank you. My report from the Recreation Committee is on page 24. The only action item there is an item that's also shown as an action item on your agenda. That's item number 2. My report gives you a little bit more setup of what this is about, but it amounts to Representative Stefanski securing an additional $200,000 in capital outlay funding aimed at improvements to the Rice Festival building. So with that money available to us, the mayor is pursuing using that money to replace the Rice Festival building roof, which is about 18, 19 years old. Several things need to be in place before we can actually do that. The first thing is that the project architect, and I'm not the project architect, it's Josh Huffpower, I'm speaking on his behalf. He's obtained a change order price of $220,000 from the contractor who is doing the renovations and repair project at this time. That $200,000 comes from the capital outlay program with a requirement that the city would have to come up with 25% of the cost, in this case 25% of $220,000. The city would have to come up with at least $55,000 if that change order price sticks. Before we can get any further than that, though, we're going to need to request approval from the Office of Facility Planning and Control that purpose is consistent with the application we made years ago to do renovation repairs to that building. So we're working on that at this time. Council would also need to appropriate, and I would suggest that you have an amount not to exceed $65,000, just in case for some reason we go over the 55, the 25% of 220. We would need to have that appropriation from the council in the budget. Last is that Representative Stefanski will need to get an authorization from the legislature to spend $200,000 in a change order, because the maximum amount of a change order by the capital outlay rules is $100,000 without getting approval from the legislature, so you have to go back and do that. So there are several things pending. The action that we're suggesting is on your agenda, the Recreation Committee agenda, and that would be approving change order number 1 contingent upon approval of the Louisiana Division Administration Office of Facility Planning and Control, and referring the appropriation of an amount up to $65,000 to cover the city's 25% match to the Revenue and Finance Committee.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Cabell, seconded by Mr. Reggie, second. Discussion? Mr. Martin?
Tim, I'm familiar with John got, and I applaud him for that. But how did we go over the 200,000? Basically, when you get that type of commitment from the legislature, it's a top amount. I've learned that from these guys, from those guys and ladies, that if the deal is 50,000, they probably appropriate 60 just to cover costs. So how did, and this is the architect that came up with the 220, am I correct? So that's 20,000 over the actual grant, if everything goes well, correct?
The two things happened at different points in time. The 200,000 was secured by Representative Stefanski during the legislative session last year, without regard to what it would be used for. Nobody knew at that time what purpose would that money be devoted to. So once the money was cleared the House bill, and once it cleared the bond commission, now we have it to use. Now we're thinking of the best way to use it. Now we're getting an estimate, so, or actually a change order price. So at the time the money was secured, roof replacement was not contemplated. He just got $200,000 to do what would be the best thing for the Rice Festival building.
I do understand what is being said, but, yeah, I diverge back to the question. The roof itself, wasn't there bids taken on the roof? I'm just asking.
No, sir.
There was no bid? Oh, so this was a blind, adventure. Am I hearing it right? In other words, we have to use the money, so let's use it for the most important or the most obvious thing? I'm just asking, I mean, because usually, and you know yourself, Tim, we deal a lot with that, with the tax credits. But usually when, that type of money is actually, there's usually the period on it. But I can see now why, I'm just information, that's all I got.
Sure.
I'm good, thank you.
If I understand that right, the original was 200,000 for the renovations of the recreation center. But then this is an additional 200,000 for the roof replacement. Some more money came about, so we're looking at 400,000 altogether, right?
Right, 290 and then 200.
Right.
Yeah, I know it's close to 300,000 at first.
Yeah, two, and then another 2. So that's great.
And the rub is that specifically, a roof replacement was never in the application.
Right.
Nobody thought about that 3 or 4 years ago when we first applied. So now we have to make sure that facility planning will agree that that is a repair and renovation to the building, which you would think that if anything would qualify, that would.
It still has to go to.
It still has to be approved by the Office of FP&C, yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wilridge?
I mean, I'm a bit confused too now, but is this money allocated just for the Rice Festival building?
Yes, it is.
And when you found out about the roof of the Rice Festival building,
Well,
need to be replaced or whatever?
we see that we have the money now.
I don't care about the money. I say when it came about, that we first found out that the roof needed to be replaced.
Well, I don't think anybody is saying that the roof urgently needs to be replaced, but it is getting close to 20 years old, so.
A lot of things are probably 20 years old, so we ain't replacing that yet. So
The way
this is
this
the
came
first time
about-
it came across the council about replacing the roof.
We couldn't bring it up till we knew we had the money. Once we knew we had 200,000, then we said, what's the best application of the 200,000? And the idea that the roof would match the purpose of the grant is what came.
When we got the approval for the $220,000 that we realized we was getting,
When did that happen?
yeah,
Yeah, the bond commission approved it, I think, in November
of last year.
of last year.
And we here in April, and we just hearing about it.
Well, I think we knew that Representative Stefanski was trying to get that money applied to the Rice Festival building. But again, when he got it applied, he didn't apply it to anything specific other than additional improvements to the Rice Festival.
Well, y'all gonna say it, but it ain't no we. The original thing I heard that Secretary got a grant for $300,000 to be used for the right festival. So when did all this extra money came about?
It was approved by the legislature in the spring of last year. It was signed by the governor in August, and it was approved by the bond commission, I think, in November.
And when it came across the city council of Crowley?
Well, there are other things that had to happen after the bond commission approval. We had to wait for the state to send down the agreement to spend the money. That didn't come about till December, January. So grant money is great, but it's a slow process. But again, until we knew we had the agreement and therefore we were able to spend the money, we didn't know what we were gonna spend it on. And we still don't. The council could still say, wait, we don't wanna spend it on a roof, we wanna spend it on something else. The roof is just an idea because the existing roof is almost 20 years old.
That's the part.
Ms. Randolph?
We already have renovations going on at the Rice Festival building?
Yes.
Okay, and those were, that's what I thought the grant was from, the renovations that are going on right now.
Okay, that's the original 290,000.
Okay, but this 220 would have to go back through the legislature again and go through that whole process at the first.
Not the whole process. Stefanski has met with the mayor and said, if you do spend this money and it exceeds the $100,000 limit for a change order, that is not an insurmountable problem. All I have to do, John said, is go back to the legislature and get approval to exceed the $100,000. Obviously, we're gonna spend $200,000 in a change order, then he's got to do that. But he called the mayor, about a month ago, when we knew this money was coming down the pipe, and assured us that he would carry the water for us to get it through the legislature. There are a lot of steps to be taken here.
Okay, I was just confused as there was two separate grants. And
That's the only thing I'm confused about too. That's all.
yeah, one is for existing work that's going on right now.
290, yes.
Okay, and then this would be for roofing.
Well, it's money that we say that would be a good application. I think what's hard to understand is Representative Stefanski got $200,000 to apply there, but that was never applied for. He just got it, and we didn't have a purpose for
Well,
it.
that's what I thought we were doing, the 200,000, I thought that's what we were doing right now.
No, it's the 290 we're doing right now. The 290 was approved about 2 years ago,
If not longer, huh, Tim?
if not longer.
If not longer, because that was on the application of grant almost 5 years ago.
Yeah, we've been applying for the renovations that are under construction now for over 5 years. And the money finally came in, architect designed it, we did it, Habits is working on it. That does not include the roof because the original application never said that we needed to have money to replace it.
And a part, let's be clear, I guess. So the additional 200,000, the roof job, is a suggestion that we do the roof, but that's not set in stone yet. That was a suggestion that's one way that we could spend the $200,000 would be to replace the roof. And I think that's a lot of confusion's coming up.
That's correct, but I modify that to say that we don't even have that approved by facility planning yet. We gotta put something forward. If we're gonna do it in this existing contract, there's not a lot of time to waste. But there's no urgency to spend that $200,000, so we could always back up.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, mean, it was, if I'm not mistaken, Representative Saransky said that it was earmarked for Rice Festival building as well.
That's absolutely the case, yes.
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Sutton.
Yeah, just, so, grant number one, that was issued like 2 or 3 years ago, was $290.
Yep.
The one that was passed last spring is $200, and a total of $490, correct?
Correct.
Okay, just making sure we were I was understanding that correct also.
And 200,000 that, it has been suggested that we do a
Suggested for
roof
the roof.
job, but that's not
It's
set in
up
stone
to-
yet.
Yes, and the
But it is
290 was
earmarked
used
for
for
work at
renovations,
the Rice Festival.
both
At the Rice
earmarked for
Festival.
Rice
That's right.
Festival building.
So there's a total.
Yeah, we may want to straighten those crooked walls out or something.
$490.
Already
Total
done.
of 3 grants.
Mr. Martin.
All right, something needs to be cleared up here, and once again, the elephant in the damn room, nobody wants to see it. So you're telling me that John, and matter of fact, I'm gonna call John after the meeting, you can explain this to me. $200,000. That quote unquote, right now, there's no leaks, and I'm asking you, is there a leak at that Rice Festival building right now?
Yes, there is.
Okay, is it a leak that the whole roof has to be changed right now? Or
This is where we're at. We issued about 2 weeks ago a $9,500 PO to patch leaks that we found while the renovation was going on. We just put in a new suspended ceiling.
Okay.
We're still, we have leaks popping up. The problem is, we're spending $10,000 to patch an 18-year-old roof. That's where we're at with this building.
Good, okay, that's, all right. Now, once again, I don't have any problem with anything that improves. But, is our clerk here today? No, she's not. Okay, I'm asking this council. The last time that we had talked about the bathrooms at the Martin Luther King Center, I know it's for a public building, but since we're in this right now, something has to be talked about. Who applied for the extra $200,000?
Nobody.
Nobody, so it just popped up $200,000.
Yes, sir.
Not one time did someone say, well, we're not sure if anything's going on at the, Rice Festival building, but we know damn well it's needed at the Martin Luther King Center. Okay, so y'all see what I'm getting at, and I ain't got no problem driving full speed ahead. When we voted, what, over a year and a half ago, and I'm gonna ask this council for a refreshment. When we voted to build that restroom, we voted to build the restroom, not to look into building. Am I correct in saying that?
I'm gonna say yes.
Okay, well, what we're gonna do, I'm gonna ask the clerk, and I would really love to have this, for our upcoming meeting. Because during the Harvard Day and also the Martin Luther King Day, a statement was made, and I justifiably went along with it just to go along with it. But the fact of the matter is, that restroom was supposed to have been built months ago, if not over a year ago. I keep hearing this about, we're gonna apply for grants. Man, look, let me tell you something here. Nobody needs to be in that position. Have y'all gone out to the MLK Center doing any time where there was, a crowd, whatever it may be? And Peter, I have to tell you, you're doing an excellent job with what you have. Okay, I just wanna make clear with that. But the fact of the matter is, we were told that we needed an architect for the restroom, which, I mean, I guess you do, whatever. And that was the holdup. Man, that came out of your mouth. Martin Luther King Day was what, second week in January, February, March, April, May. You know, we still rolling. Has an architect been hired to do that?
Absolutely, Mr. Martin, if you recall, I invited you and Mr. Woodridge to come by my office and look at the plans that he had submitted to me.
I don't need to go by y'all to see no plans.
Would you like me to bring them to you?
Well, I think the whole council needs to see it. And also, listen, hold it. What has come from it? Okay, you say you had architect plans. What?
Yes, sir, in respect to you, Mr. Martin, and in respect to Mr. Woodridge, I invited y'all to come look at the plans.
Yes,
and make
exactly.
sure that it was okay, if you don't mind me finishing.
Okay, go
If
ahead.
it was okay, I want to make sure that it's okay with you guys, it's your district. You know,
You remember what I told you when you called me with that? I told you, I don't care what it looked like, as long as it's a restroom that they can use. I don't have no
Are you
preference.
okay with that right now?
Yeah, listen, man.
So no matter what's on the plan, you're okay, let's proceed.
We want a restroom out there,
You got it. Thank you.
okay?
Yes,
So I'm gonna ask the question here again. Did we vote to, look into it or to build it? And I'm gonna ask for the clerk, I know she's a real
you,
busy
the
person.
minutes, I can provide it to you right now. The minutes of that meeting was that you guys voted on for me to proceed to get an architect to draw up some plans. And that's what you guys voted on, and that's what I
No, not
did.
just to draw no plans, man. I mean, what you gonna draw plans for if you're not planning on building?
Well, first of all, if you're gonna vote on something that's gonna cost $65,000 to $100,000, you have to appropriate the money. So.
Listen, man, we borrowed money, look, man, we're not gonna go there.
Okay.
We're not gonna go there. So you telling me, all right, and once again, with all due respect, I was one of the one that fought for this, so hey, I'm in that behind. We spent almost $6-7 million over at, the Rice Festival building and also the parks. Okay? We were told that the lights, and Peter, if you remember, we talked about this, that once the lights were brought down from Middle Stadium, wherever it was, we would have lights in Gans Park, which is behind the Martin Luther King Center. That has never come to fruition yet. Byron, I'm pretty sure you get calls. We have people out there, they actually have teams that they go out there and play with. You know, it's kind of ironic. I was one of them, you know, put the headlights on so they could finish the game. That's not right. And being the representative from the council, myself and my co-host, we the one gets all the flack, not you. Okay? Because one of the stipulations that we had talked about over in our district, we don't know what anybody else talked about in your district with your constituents. And I said, well, let's get this together here. We talked about the church and all this other good stuff. And what we're gonna do, everything out there is still good. Everybody, agrees that the lights ain't nothing wrong with the lights. No, I don't think anything wrong with the lights. And, I remember we had a constituent call Peter, and Peter gave the word. He said, well, I'm just waiting on the word. What was that your words to this person? That you were just waiting on the word to get it done.
I'm waiting for the electrician to give me a budget call, but to see what it would take to get the field back.
Exactly. Okay. Question is, has that been done?
It's in the works. I hope to have that price for you next committee meeting.
Okay. Next committee meeting, not, okay.
Yes.
Mayor, we got two situations here, and I'm definitely gonna call, John on this. I don't have any problem with repairing something that's needed repairing. But the fact, when you've been put on the back burner for so long, only half your meal get cooked. Okay, it's time for the food for everybody to eat the same, out the same pot. Now, I'm gonna ask in front of this council, and everybody here, when will we get started building that restroom and also getting those lights out?
Mr. Martin, ma'am, I think this is something that's gonna have to be brought before the buildings committee.
Yeah,
But
I do
my
understand.
recommendation would be, it sounds like we have the plans, we have the architectural plans. I think possibly by next meeting that the mayor could submit the plans to the council for approval, and then it could go out for bid immediately after that. If the plans are already drawn up, and it sounds like they are, and it sounds like we're ready to go out for bid. So I would suggest that during the Public Buildings Committee, that we bring that up and have that submitted to the council for approval, and then we go out for bids immediately on that, and I think we could get this resolved very, very quickly, I think.
Yeah, but there's one stipulation here that needs to be resolved as well. That has already been proved. We ain't gotta wait till the next committee. We can vote on this at our next meeting.
I'm gonna call a question. That is not what this discussion item is all about. We've talked about it for 30 minutes.
And we're gonna talk about it for another damn 15 minutes.
Well, you talk to yourself about it, Steph, but
You
that's
know,
not what's on
Okay,
the
order.
agenda.
Look, we're not gonna get into that. I'm,
Let me straighten you out with something.
hold on,
Let me straighten you. This is all germane to
I
what we're
call
talking
the
about.
question.
okay.
And I will
Let's
not
move
be able
on.
to-
Look, we're gonna bring it up again in the public buildings where I think it's appropriate and needs to be discussed.
right now, we talking about grant money. That's the reason why that was brought up.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'll yield to, public buildings, I have no problem with that.
All right, thank you. All right.
Yeah.
So, any more discussion on this as it was read? All in favor? And this is to bring it, to send it to Revenue and Finance Committee for further consideration. Opposed? Motion carried.
That's all I
Anything,
have. That's all I have.
sorry?
I'm done with it.
Okay, thank you. Anything else to come before the Recreation Committee? Then the Recreation Committee recess.
Thank you. Next is zoning and annexation, Mr. Copeland.
Thank you, Mayor. We have all members present. All members are present. Tim, do you have anything for zoning?
My written report is all I have.
All right. And under action items, I received a call today. Ms. Kathleen Court is withdrawing her request. So is there any other matter to be brought before zoning and annexation? If not, we will recess.
All right, thank you. Next is, public safety, Mr. Cord.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to call on the Public Safety Committee meeting. We have a forum present with Stephen Primo absent. Under the reports, we will begin with Mayor Tim Monsol's report on blight abatement progress.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to acknowledge, the CAB committee, the Citizens Against Blight, I think we have Emily Stumble, Ms. Katie Alcorn, and Mr. Richard Hughes is up here. I want to thank them for everything that they're doing. Also would like to recognize this time the steering committee, which is Mr. Stephen Primo, Ms. Emily Stumble, Mr. Richard Hughes, Ms. Margaret Young, and Tim Mater, who is our city engineer, they've already been meeting, and we thank them very much for what they've been doing. I also would like to tell you that in our office that I've gotten Mr. Tony Collins. Mr. Tony Collins, from now on, will be handling all of the blight. And Tamika in our office is going to be assistant clerically. I would also like to tell you that we are looking into updating our software to be able to help us and guide us, and to be able to help Mr. Hughes and them for us to be able to, and we thank y'all very much for your plan as well. Announce also that the American Relief Funds, if everybody's knowing what the American Relief Funds are, a lot of people are calling it COVID money. If grant eligible, remember what I'm saying, if grant eligible, if we are allowed to, I will make sure and try to determine those funds at that time, but I would like to make sure to be able to appropriate some money for that particular blight abatement program, and just to let y'all know that. Also, I spoke to Mr. Reagan and our city attorney, and we're looking at procuring a particular attorney, and to be able to help with the blight abatement and blight abatement only, to where we can try to, speed things up. Mr. Reagan, I'm sure, is overwhelmed. But we thank Mr. Reagan for everything he is doing. And also remind everyone about the public hearing that's going to be coming up on the administrative hearing. At this time, I would like to call on the steering committee chairman, Mr. Richard Hughes, this committee, and if you would like to give us a report, we do appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, as far as the Blight Court is concerned, since you just brought it up, and you said it was only specifically for blight, and the way I read the ordinance, it seems to me that it also includes, junk and all other code enforcement. Am I incorrect in saying
I'm
that?
sorry, I didn't catch the first part of your question, I'm sorry.
The blight court that we're going to be putting, getting back in place, I understood you to say that it only took care of blight, but in reading the ordinance, the proposed ordinance, it takes in more than just blight, and I just wanted to clarify that before I begin.
Yes, sir. I would be glad to, and it will take in trash,
Right.
grass, tall grass,
Okay. I
and
just
so
wanted
forth.
to
so.
wanted to make sure that was.
Yes, sir.
And we're all in favor, the steering committee and, you know, our membership is all in favor of going forward with this as it's written right now.
Absolutely.
If you all people take a look at the handout I gave you for our, you know, our group and the organizational chart, you can see obviously the steering committee up on top. If you move down, you'll see a tracking and mapping, and we have an Excel sheet that Emily's gonna talk about a little bit later on, but we're hoping that we can include that into the town, so everyone can be on the same page and track it at the same time. Mr. Mader is going to be doing the mapping, and we're really excited about this program right now and how we have it organized. And we have Katie Allman, who has worked her tail off to make this thing happen, and we all need to recognize how hard this thing works. I was away for a month, but I was on the phone with Emily at least an hour, 2, sometimes 3 hours a day. And that's the truth. But anyway, it's been a group effort of 30 people putting together and mapping out the entire town. We have it all on spreadsheets. I'm pretty sure that we've got it, you know, I'll let Emily talk about the specifics of that. But just so you know, and the reason why I brought it up is the tracking and mapping goes down to a quadrant of 4 areas of the town that we have designated. As you can see, 2 people on each one that are going to be the people reporting back to the steering committee. And then we have it broken down into categories of blight or violations, and separate people working on that. So if anyone has, one of the citizens call us up, call in a violation or a potential violation, and then that committee will take a look at it, report back to the town about what's going on. And then the next item down, which I thought was a really important thing, Katie did, and Emily, and the whole steering committee actually, is because we're gonna get into a lot of blight situations where people, it's not their fault. They're living in these places, they gotta be ripped down, they don't have the money to go anywhere with it. You know, we're looking into getting grants to be able to place these people into, you know, housing until they can get on their feet or whatever it might be. But, Luke is going to be probably looking for grants. We're looking for a grant writer too for that. And then we also have a committee that actually qualifies the people. Because you know how that can be. If you're handing out free money, you've got to be careful who you're handing out free money to. Any questions about this so far?
But we'd like to say thank y'all very much. We know y'all putting a lot into it. We very much appreciate it.
One of the things I think we can help out is if we increase the fines here, it's going to make people a little bit more aware of keeping things clean. I mean, if the fine is, you know, $5, $25, whatever, who cares? You know, if you get caught, $25. If you get caught with a $200 fine, it's a big difference. So I think we really should look at increasing the fines in a lot of these instances. Can't read my own writing. The street sign thing we already talked about. And in our observations, the guys in code enforcement, they need 2 secretaries right now. We have 500 properties that we've already signified. They can't handle that. They need 2 secretaries right now. And in the future, maybe move one down to part-time. But right now, they're gonna be inundated. I mean, we have an enthusiastic group that is really gonna be going after all this stuff. Emily will tell you about that. But it's gonna be frustrating for the citizens and for us if things can't move in a very quick manner, very organized manner. And they need 2 secretaries to keep them organized. There's no doubt about it. One question I have, because it was
tall grass and trash.
It's a code violations of, say someone is dumping raw sewage out, who's in charge of that?
On dumping raw sewage, we'll continue to have Mr. Tony go out and take a look at it.
Tony,
I'm sorry, do you, I apologize.
okay,
I'm sorry.
then that's not a problem. If you all can just give us a list of who's responsible for what, it'd be a whole lot easier for us to do. Or
Yeah,
I could just go down and talk to the guys.
Sure.
I'd like a copy of that too.
Okay.
All right, I don't have anything else, if you have a question?
Who's gonna, if it ain't been done all this time, who's supposed to be the lead enforcer on this?
I'm sorry,
Who's supposed to be the lead enforcer?
the lead
The
enforcer,
lead enforcer, who's gonna actually go out there, y'all find, properties, okay?
right?
We're gonna go through the same hoops and loops that we've been going
No,
through?
this is how we envision it.
Okay,
And
well, that's what I
hopefully,
need to know.
as I said when I first came up before, the cooperation between the town and our group is essential. And how inundated these two guys could be with us bringing all this stuff in, what we would like to do is signify it, write up the someone show us how to write up the violation, okay? Bring it to Tony or Tony and have them sign it, have it logged in, and we'll carry it out from there. We'll serve it to the people, we'll make sure that everything is going from soup to nuts.
Yeah, but there's still one problem. Who has the authority of arrest?
No rest.
Yes.
We're not gonna be arresting anyone.
No, I mean, but wait, what you just said, you gonna carry out from soup to whatever. Okay, I mean, look, I'm asking for a question because Emily, I'm pretty sure she told you, I'm about to get myself into something right here, and I wanna make sure I'm on the same lead. All right, so, let's call it like it is. The stack got like it is because people weren't doing their job. Let's face it, okay. So now you saying that that stack, you said over 500 violations. Okay. Are we going from bottom up, or are we going from top down?
We're looking at the worst cases to begin with. We're gonna go from the worst cases on that. So if we know a building's half fallen down, that's when number one on our list. I don't care who owns it, it's just a matter of where it is. It could be, in the historic
Okay,
district, it
all
doesn't
right,
matter.
all right. With that being said, and we know one building that's there, what is the lead on that? How will that be, look to be adjudicated, or will it be,
Yeah,
finding the people that you can't find?
that's what the court is all about. The court is the one to make the final decision on what's gonna happen. We're finding out where the people are, the addresses and everything else, and Emily will talk to you more about this. But we're gonna handle it as much as we can within the limits of, regulations of the town.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
I mean,
because-
I'm not certified to sign the violation, okay?
But those who are certified to sign the violation, ain't been doing a damn thing.
That's a thing of the past.
Well,
Moving
that's what
on.
I'm asking, how would you replicate what they have not done and move forward?
He's trying to organize it. He's trying
I
to.
tell you what, let Emily answer that question.
Okay, yeah, because I'm confused.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes.
I'm confused.
Okay, Steph,
Okay,
forget about the past. We talked about this already.
all right.
Forget about the past.
Okay.
A judge is being assigned. The mayor is looking for an attorney that has 2 years of experience, and he will be a dedicated judge.
Well, you just answered the question. That's what
I
I'm asking.
kept, that's
Who
what
would
I,
take the legal? So it'd be going through a judge. Okay, well, that's
Okay.
good. I'm good with that.
that's why I asked to speak.
Okay, all right,
Okay,
good.
the judge is going to handle it. You guys are out the picture.
Okay,
We're in the picture.
good enough.
The mayor has appointed us. So y'all are out, we're in. That's why I talked to you earlier about the situation.
So there is a judge that's
Yes.
gonna be, okay. That's
Okay.
all I want
So
to know.
now let me go forward with my end, and then we'll field questions, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. The recap of CAB's finding as of today, which Katie just updated again, is we're actually looking at close to 500 blighted, abandoned, burned, are houses that are not livable. Last I heard from you guys, it was like 300 and something. So you see the track that we're on, you see how far behind we are. 500 that we're looking at. About 40 of them, I would say, is code violations. So what Katie has done is put all of this information into an Excel program. We have rode the city, and I'm gonna stop in between and interrupt about y'all's sign situation, because I can answer it. Nobody knew the answer to the signs. I'd say 3/4 of the city's signs are gone. They're not there. The fact that empty signs were given and said go right on, I can't swallow that. I don't understand that. I think that's a serious issue with 911, which you write on the sign, but I just want to go back to signs, 3/4 probably. We had to drive 9 blocks to find out what street we were on, and then go back, I don't know how many, to find the avenue. Then when we got to the house, there's no sign on the house. Serious problems. The way this is gonna work with CAB, because you talk about volunteers, we have to have complete participation. We have to have City Hall staffed up. We have to have 2 gentlemen that are gonna be there to receive information, enforce information, and work with us. And they've got to have clerical, dedicated clerical. Katie has put everything together with Excel, and we want to know before we turn it over that you're able to receive it into your program. If you can't receive it into your program, then are you willing to convert to Excel and take Katie's information? We've got to communicate.
I have, just to be honest with you, I have not seen any of your programs.
Right, and we haven't seen yours either.
And
But
form.
yeah, I'm just letting you know that this is what's coming up.
Right,
Because I haven't seen yours, you haven't seen mine, but we gotta work together.
that's correct, and we, I want you to understand, and our program that's called Tracy's is every bit of capable of being able to enter all this information. But of course, yes, it does take someone to put it in.
Right, and according to our meeting that we had at City Hall, Tony said that information hasn't been put in for probably 7 or 8 months. So as far as I'm concerned, that's obsolete, it has no meaning, erase, and Katie's goes in, because nothing's been put in for 7 months. You're talking about a year ago, 300 and something, and we're saying 500 and something. So, in answer to Steph's question and everybody here, I think it's a new day. That's the only way you can go forward, because it's not accurate. So with that being said, Katie has offered, if need be, she will go into City Hall. She will either input it herself, she'll either see if we can transfer it, but are you open to Katie coming in and help?
Thank you, Ms. Allen, we appreciate it.
That's a yes? That's a yes? Okay, good.
Mayor, you said you were gonna update, software, were you talking about this program? Okay.
Whichever way we can get on the same thing. The other thing, Mayor Monso, that we're gonna be a stickler for, because of the situation we're in right now, once we read each other's computer, weekly, we want to update each other. Because once we go through this, we want to quit. Before we start, we want to quit. So we want to make sure that your staff is going to end up taking over this.
Correct.
So at the end of every Friday afternoon, Katie's going to be updated some kind of way. And at the same time, the mapping system that Mr. Bader is going to do is going to be updated. I am for total disclosure. The city is going to know where we are and what's going on. And I'm going to tell you why that's important. Because since we got into this and started tracking, we had the meeting in City Hall, and the 2 gentlemen came in that you introduced us to. 2 gentlemen by the name of Jason Chambers and Tarleton Clement. These 2 gentlemen are in the process of either purchasing or have purchased 20 blighted houses. They're knocking them down and they rebuild them. So take our 500 and subtract 20. we're moving. As we have this list, if you look on the action committee, you're gonna find a committee that is gonna go out and give this list to other contractors. And we're gonna ask the contractors, here's a blighted property, here's their name, here's our address, are you interested? Anything that can be kept out of City Hall and negotiated on this side is quick, fast, and over, like the 20. So we're gonna take the list and go out to other contractors and ask them. That's things that CAB's gonna do to move it forward. Once all the properties are coded according to how severe they are, then the list will begin to be handed out to the contractors. They'll know what they're looking at. They'll decide if they're interested. People will be able to contact one-on-one. Keep it out at City Hall. Keep it out at City Hall, no legal fees, nothing involved, and we go. That's a part where Rich and I will be able to go one-on-one and talk to people and say, you know, it's a new day and this is how we are. Do you want to accumulate fees? Do you want to lose your property? Let's talk. So that's another way that, you know, we plan to go forward. It's a lot of blight, and so we have to act quickly, accurately, and use different techniques. So staff, keeping that in mind, you know, who's on first, who's on second, what year is 2014, that's gone, 2014. Like when I visit with you and I tell you what was most important to us was all roads that lead to the rec center first. And then we talked about, you know, drug places and prostitution places and all this, and they're real, we saw them. So that's how things are going to be rated. With that being said, you know, we've just been officially appointed, but the word's already out. And I can tell you from the 500 that you can take 4 off. 3 residents have knocked them down themselves already, and 1 commercial has knocked it down already, and that's by word of mouth. We plan on pursuing it and pushing forward. There's a couple questions that I have, and then I'm open for your questions. I would like to know the status of the church.
The church, we did send out a notification, which we have to do by law. We had sent out a notification, it came back undelivered, so they have to do it again. The office was able to get the name of the person who is the agent, and I attempted to call those people yesterday and today, and I did not get an answer back. And I'm gonna attempt it again tomorrow.
Okay, you see, that's some of the avenues that CAB is gonna do, is make phone calls.
That's correct, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to offer the lady, and say it's a lady, who is the agent. We're trying to offer this lady an avenue of tearing it down themselves without having to face extra or incur extra expenses.
That's the frame of mind we all have to get in,
Absolutely.
because it's such a big amount. My second question to you is, what is the status of the judge being appointed for the Blight Court?
I am in process of getting that person.
Time frame?
Oh.
You have somebody in mind?
Yes, I do. And-
Have you spoke to them? I'm not gonna ask your name, so don't
Right.
worry. Have you spoke to them?
Of course, you know, I did have somebody in mind.
Right.
And they can't do it,
Okay,
and I'm not gonna say that name.
you don't have to, I don't
And,
care.
and I do have another person, I have not spoken to them yet, hopefully we'll meet either tomorrow or Friday.
Okay,
And they'll usually give me an answer within a couple of days.
okay. So can I believe in a week
Oh, yeah,
we'll be going? Okay,
Well,
great.
we hope and pray.
Do you have
That
number
person
3
will say
lined up?
yes. Yes.
Okay, good.
Have alternates, yes.
Okay, good. Okay, I have 2 questions for the council. Because if you look at the organizational chart, you see the council falls right under Katie. And if you look at it, 2 councilmen are not listed on there. I'm a very open, honest, disclose everything. Your name is not on there because you haven't reached back to us. When we came forward and talked about CAB, every councilman that is on there contacted us and said, I want to be a part of it. So if you want to be a part of it, all you gotta do is speak up. 2 councilmen are not listed. My question is, as councilman, what is your duties as a public official? In fact, I'm sorry, I'm gonna ask about the code violations first. What duty does a public official of the city have when code violations are observed? I'm talking about the Tonys. For instance, if a complaint is reported about one address and the adjoining address, the property next door, is a violation, is the inspector required to issue the citation to both, or just the property that he's coming out to see? What is his procedure?
As for,
Mr. Martin's gonna answer?
Okay,
Okay, go ahead.
code enforcement from the inception, when we brought it here, and I understand, I'm sorry, I want to go back to maybe with Daredevil, who said at the time, their job is to ride up and down the city and locate violations. Okay? That's their job. They don't have to wait till somebody calls them. For 8 hours a day, it should be more. If there's a violation, you cite them for it. Let them, in other words, instead of you being the aggressor on it, let them be the deterrent. You stop and tell them your grass needs to be cut.
Okay, so we know that hasn't happened.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's, when we put that person in place, that was the whole dilemma that was set before us, because we could not find most of the people. Okay, in other words, just like the same thing that's happening now. We're looking for the owner of the property, well, somebody's renting the property. They don't have no jurisdiction or authority to tell you anything that's going on the property. So that's why they were given, quote unquote, the authority that they had. We never gave them power of arrest, but we did give them power to, call the chief or what have you, if there was a problem. But when they cited these people, they were supposed to go to court like any other violator. Okay, you go to court. All right, your name was, I don't know if y'all remember this, but you used to have your name in the paper.
I brought that up.
That's right. We used to, when you were in violation of grass, whatever, section such and such and such and such, okay? They made that public notice to everybody. All of a sudden, that went away.
Okay, my question, a lot of things went away, Steph. My question is, if the code enforcer gets a complaint that my house, the grass is high, but my neighbor is Tim Mater and Brad Core, is he coming just to my house, or is he gonna look over and see the 2 houses next door and take the initiative to write them all up?
That's the way it's supposed to be. Well, anybody, anywhere, anytime.
anyway, they will definitely go to that house that was complained about, absolutely. And they have to make a record of it, they have to take pictures, and then they move forward from there. But if they look at the ones next door?
Well, they're not. They're not, because we saw blocks, whole blocks, after block, after block of houses. So I want to make sure when they go out, they don't just go out and look at what the complaint is, look to your left, look to your right, across the street, next door. The city is a mess, so we would need to clarify that. Then I want to ask a question to the mayor and the alderman. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, as a property owner, I have rental properties, and I don't maintain the grass on the rental property, that's the renters. So are you gonna give the citations, or the citations gonna be given to the property owner, or it's gonna be given to the person that's leasing that property? Because that's, in most cases, that's their responsibility to keep up with the grass and.
I would think it's the owner's responsibility, and you take it up with your renter, because you own the property.
The law states, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
oh my God, Mr. Chair. The law states that we have to notify that person.
The
We
owner.
have- That is correct, the owner of the property, the parcel owner has to be notified by registered mail. We notify them, they have so many deeds, there's copies of the ordinance, there's copies of the letter, of what we send and the report that we send to that person. if they respond, they have so many days from that date, and we follow up and go to make sure that they get it done. So, there's a lot of them that, didn't take care of it, so we go and cut it. The city has cut many yards in this past year, and all we can do is assign it to their taxes, and hopefully that they'll pay for it at the end of the year. And that's what the law reads. But we have to give notification.
Okay, as mayor and alderman, when you observe blighted or abandoned structures and vehicles that are left abandoned throughout the city, have you reported them to the city inspector to be investigated, or do you wait for the public to complain?
I report.
I have to,
3 times.
I have to.
Okay, then we need a total restructure of the department in City Hall, because everybody here lives in the city of Crowley, and everybody here says they report, and we have 500 blighted houses, of which 40 is probably code violations. Something's broken.
And
Eric?
thank you. And I like what you just said earlier, is that we're moving forward.
Yes,
Okay, we're moving forward, and of course,
but to move forward, we have to.
yes.
Change.
I agree with you. And that's what we're doing, and we have been working on that at least for 1.5 years. We're trying to restructure and get something moving. And I'm gonna tell you, in the last 1.5 years, because we're trying to work harder and get things done, there has been some people volunteering their properties, and they've been volunteering their properties, meaning demolishing them themselves, because they see we need business, we're trying, and we appreciate what you're saying, we're moving forward.
Yes,
And I know everybody knows that this is just not occurred in the last 2 years. Of course, it's something that we inherited, and we all inherited, and that's what we're trying to work hard.
this is 14 years of accumulation,
However,
so,
maybe
yeah,
even more than that.
we
So,
talked about that. But
Yeah.
I want to make sure that as we move forward,
yes,
and we give all of our time, that everybody's on the same
that
page,
is correct.
and that City Hall is staffed up for what's coming.
That is correct. And
So that's what I want to be sure
That
of.
is the reason why I said what I said earlier about restructuring that department, and that we already have.
And Mayor, with the CAB organization, as council members, are we to provide those blighted properties to the organization, the CAB? Or is that system gonna change, we don't have to report to the code enforcement?
You still have to report to code enforcement. You gather the information. You
Yes.
gather all of the information that's necessary for either grass, tall grass, blighted, whatever. I hate to use the word blighted, but anyway, for condemnable property. And then code enforcement has to follow up by sending out a letter. They have to. The due process is very important. We have to have due process.
Right.
So does the citizen that owns that property.
I want to make certain that that's coordinated between
Yeah,
their
absolutely.
records and the city, so
Absolutely.
that way
That's-
anyone can go in and track to see when the complaint was filed
Yeah,
and what action has been
You'll be
taken,
able
because we
to,
don't get that now.
Because
that's right, you will be able to have that. In Proceeds, we have that information that's available. It's in that Proceeds, program that we have. And it also has areas of different types of information. And
So-
we're not,
Sorry, so we could go by, look at Tracy's, and I could find all the
we can pull the
complaints.
folders, we're gonna have hard copies, we're gonna have
No, no, you
computers.
said what's in the system, I can go and look at all of the.
Okay, wait, let me back up,
complaints
let me
that
back
I
up.
made.
We'll have, you won't be able to sit at Tony's desk and bring up Proceeds, but you're gonna be able to ask for a folder at a particular address. And we can pull that folder and tell you where we at that particular time.
Can I jump in here a second?
Awesome. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Hughes.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I
Yes,
think we can streamline this a lot easier if y'all report to us,
Yeah,
and then we bring it to the town. So it all stays into the chart and the flow of what work we've set up. If we go around the other way, it's gonna be massive
Yes.
confusion.
thank you, Mr. Hughes.
Because that's one thing we've had a problem with in the past is I have, reported, but I get no follow-up. So, citizens come back to me and say, did you report it? And I say, yes, but I don't know what you're doing, so there's no
Okay,
follow-up.
here's the answer to you, Kim. First of all, a map is going to be created, and it's gonna be color coded. And it's gonna be the most severe to violations. We're transparent. It's going to be posted, hopefully at City Hall, in different places, and you're gonna see the locations. And as things are knocked down, the color's gonna change. In the past, I think a problem has been that code enforcement does not report to y'all. We're coming to report every month. So you wanna know something, you ask.
Also, if I may, Mr. Mayor and I were speaking one day, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for all the work you're doing as well. And on that map, we're hoping to be able to include that map for the public's view on different websites.
That's what
I'm sorry.
that's what I'm gonna say
I'm
yes.
sorry.
No, we're on the same page. The map, because just talking about CAB has caused 4 to come down on their own. Besides it being in City Hall, we're gonna put it on Facebook, we're gonna put it in the newspaper, we're gonna show the city where the blight is, so that people will see the city improve. And when you see improvement, you join in, and you'll start to see a change in the city. Yes. Mr. Crater, I think.
Great.
But just to be clear, we're doing this, it sounds really great, we're gonna have this court set up and everything, but ultimately, it's gonna come down to the mayor, who he, or what he wants to send to the court. It's not gonna be automatic, it's not gonna be, this is, property has been identified by CAB, and it needs to be condemned. It's not gonna happen until the mayor sends it to the court.
That's not what we're proposing. We're proposing that it comes from CAB to the court. I think it'll happen.
Yes, it can.
Yes.
But it has to follow due process. Yeah.
We understand due process. I was in bank, I was in collection, I understand certified letters, I understand the law, but that's the importance of tracking, because there's not gonna be names that fall off the list. When they're identified as these 10, everybody in the city's gonna know these 10. And then when we come back next month, we're gonna say these 10. So, the tracking and the communication,
And the judge,
houses wanna disappear.
and the judge is gonna be the one to order.
And the judge, he's gonna make the decisions. All we do is present and report back to y'all.
Step ahead.
Step.
I know y'all probably not familiar with the review, but y'all have heard me bring this up many times. The other day, we fought. I'm sorry, can you hear me now? Yes. I done brought, matter of fact, Brad, you remember bringing that, the review?
Yes.
Everything that you're hearing from south of us is non-existent anymore. I'm gonna ask your group, if I set up a workshop for y'all in Baton Rouge, would y'all attend? Y'all need to know the new laws that when you come down to Blight. Okay, y'all need to know how things are done now that's been passed through the legislators and also, through the LMA, where we don't have to wait anymore. There's a thing that's called a nuisance law. It's not being observed, it's not being, used for whatever.
Okay, we have visited with the city of Jennings, with the mayor, and they have an attorney on staff. We've spoke to them.
Okay.
We have a pending appointment with the mayor of Rain, and we have a pending appointment with the mayor of Church Point. So we want to see everything that's done, how it works. In answer to your question, would I go to a meeting? If it's in 2.5 months, I will. Because when he left town last week, I'm having surgery Tuesday.
Well, I do
But
understand.
I will go,
I
yes.
understand this. I mean, it don't have to be, any particular person. What you need to do, you need to know the facts of what's going on in the state.
Okay, let me-
Church Point, Brain, Jennings, they all under the same synopsis as the LMA.
we have Luke Dupree, who is taking care of
Luke
a lot
Dupree
of
does
this.
not have the jurisdictional that the LMA has.
I'm not saying this, wait a second, just hear me out, please.
Excuse me, Mr. Hughes, I think the mayor wanted to
Yes, sir, thank you.
Provide some
Thank you, and I apologize, Mr. Hughes. I just wanted to clarify, Mr. Martin, you're speaking about the LMA. Ms. Karen White, who is chief counsel of the LMA, was approached by the same topic that you referred to. And she said if you can find it anywhere in the law, she would like it if you would show it to her. But it does not exist.
What exists?
The chief of police, nor the fire chief, can order any structure to be torn down.
I never said that.
Well,
Well, first of all, let's clear that up. Let's clear that up.
I'm clarifying.
Wait, no, because you just lied. You never one time heard me say that the chief have the power to take down a house.
Yes, sir, you said it in the last.
No,
meeting.
chief,
Before, the chief sent out an
the time that
email.
I spoke to you.
The chief sent out an email clarifying that.
Hey, guys, let's not.
Wait, no, wait, he made an accusation on me now. Let me clear my way. I said the chief have the power to call that place what it is, a nuisance. That's what he has the power to do. Not one time did I say the chief go tear down a house, okay? He can call that place what it is, a drug house or whatever, and it's a public nuisance. Then it goes under the public nuisance law that the city of Crowley and every state, every city in Louisiana goes by. You in public safety, you should know that. Okay.
And I think
So
these-
don't you ever lie talking about, I say that the chief can tear down a house. You out of your damn mind. So don't you ever, and I'm gonna tell it to you now, I'm looking at you as a man.
Okay,
Don't you
order,
ever use my name in that type of sentence
Order,
again.
order, please use.
Well, this order now, but I'm letting your ass know. Don't you ever do that.
Mr. Martin, if you don't control yourself, I'm gonna ask the chief or something.
Well, that's not a problem to leave out of here, but I'm letting you know as a man, don't you ever do that again. Cause you then you gonna face me. Okay, and you don't
May I
wanna face me.
finish saying what I
I'm
was
letting you know,
gonna say?
okay, and I'm finished with
Control
you. Lying ass.
Mr. Hughes, let's gotta get a wrap up.
Yes, please.
Come here with us.
In answer to your question, we are going to be up on all of the laws. Luke Dupree is part of our organization, and we're relying upon him to keep us informed on any changes in state law. That's the answer to your question.
And of course, you will have the administrative judge.
Yes, we'll have to do the judge, it's dictating. But there is something that we believe is in place, and before we act on it, the judge is going to rule on it. But we believe if there's an architectural statement that a building is unsafe, unsound, the chief of police, and we've talked to you about this, the fire chief, we're meeting with him tomorrow or Friday, and the code enforcer, all four sign off together and say this building right here is a hazard, is a drug house, is whatever it is falling down, whatever, then it can be knocked down right there. We believe that's the law. We're gonna find out if it's true. And I think it's actually called, Steph, it's titled the police law or something, is the name of
The
it.
chief is your chief jurisdictional officer in the city. If that place, just like any, you can have a store. If that store continues to sell drugs and beer after hours or whatever it is, the chief has the power to recommend that that place, license be taken off the wall.
That's true.
Okay. He also has the power to, we don't know what's going on in these houses. The chief, that's a jurisdictional thing. We legislators, we make the laws, okay? He is the chief. He knows what his officer's going through, what that house is doing, whatever. And it gets so bad where the neighbors are afraid to come out, okay. Well, the chief has the power to come to us and say, you know what? We need the house down. That's what I'm talking about. And for him to say that I said the chief, man, that's it.
Well, from now on, it will go to the judge.
Good enough.
And so you guys and Mayor Mosso, it'll go to the judge and it'll come from CAC and it's gonna be direct. Other questions?
One question.
I guess this is kind of both-sided. Has a fee schedule been made for violations yet, or is it gonna be up to the judge to just decide per person? Because that's not really fair. And what is gonna qualify the person to be the judge? Is it a lawyer or an actual elected judge?
I believe it's a lawyer that has 2 years of experience that the mayor will appoint.
2 years of practice.
Practice.
Why don't y'all find a judge?
It's the mayor's
And then-
position to do so.
Why won't you give them permission to find a judge?
And then my next question is, where does the money to pay for this judge, this lawyer come from? Lawyers are very expensive. It says it has to be, in the ordinance, it says it has to be filed first. So who's gonna pay for the clerical for this? Is is coming from city funds, from the violations. I mean, there's just some things that haven't been really figured out yet. That
You're right, some things have not been figured out, but we're going in the right direction as a group. In answer to your fees and stuff, we haven't evaluated that yet. In answer to how we're gonna accomplish this, we believe there's allocated money in an account of $50,000 allocated to Blight. We would like to know what is the balance in that account. It was $50,000 that was allocated. Do you have any idea what's the balance in that account?
Not right at this moment, no ma'am.
Alderman Cavell, do you know the balance?
No, ma'am. I do know that 30,000, last year was spent just on grass cutting.
That's correct. What he's saying is that of that 50,000, we have to utilize the grass cutting, litter, and so forth and so on. The $37,800 of that 50,000 was used for grass cutting alone.
Okay, so the answer is 50,000 minus 37 something. So,
Approximately.
yeah, it's okay, you have
That
that
was
idea.
as of maybe a month ago,
So then
2 months ago.
Final question is, it was mentioned that someone was buying 20 blighted houses. Is this by the owner who's selling them? I didn't see that the city was advertising people. And then she
This
said
was
that
direct
there-
contact.
And then there'd be separate businesses asking, business saying, hey, look, we have this.
Can you come to the mic,
How would you just
Debbie?
go and
We
say
can hear you.
this house is blighted and go to some other business
We-
and say,
Sorry,
yeah.
we can't.
Okay, so my next question is, it was mentioned that someone was buying blighted properties. I have not seen it advertised. It was mentioned going to people and saying, oh, are you interested in this? Does that mean they get the land, or what's in it for them to do this? And how can you just give people's property away by knocking a house down?
These were private party transactions.
These were private people that contacted individuals that owned blighted property. That would be like if I would call Step on the phone and say, Step, you interested in selling your property? He says, yeah, we just sold it. It stays out of City Hall. There is a corporation of 2 gentlemen that have purchased what would be and is considered blight on the list, and they negotiated outside of City Hall. So
it's with the.
They bought it Blight
building
at
owner,
prices.
it's with the property owner.
They bought it Blight property. Now, people have to understand the difference between what we call actual purchase and Blight property. They understand that, guess what, you buying every deal that comes with this, the problems that comes with it as well.
Because we've been through
Right,
this.
so that's we term that Blight property. But the answer to your question is to help lawyers, go to the Bar Association and get some pro bono lawyers. I promise you, there will be some of them right there at Southern University, at LSU. They'll be glad to come on board with this. Just go to, right across from Allison's.
that's the mayor's responsibility, the judge. And you'll get back with us within a week.
The other comments or?
Yeah, one more thing.
I'll go right here.
Positive thing. One of the other ways to skin the cat with these blighted properties, and I spoke with you about this the other day, was to approach the people, and in a lot of cases, these have been willed down to families, they don't want to deal with it, they can't afford to deal with it, maybe, whatever. But what we can do is have them donate the property to the town. They get a full appraised tax write-off for the property, which equates to quite a few $1,000s. We tear it down and then put it up for sale. And then the town makes money off the property, the homeowner makes money off the property, and everyone's happy. So that's another way to skin the cat, and I think that's a good avenue for us to go down, and it's gonna take just a little bit of communication with people. But rather than walk in like the Gestapo, which we don't wanna do, you know, we wanna find the easiest solution that's really palatable and fair. And that's where we've been coming from.
I think there's a moratorium against what you just said.
I'm sorry?
I think there's a moratorium against that, but what you can do, they can get it to a nonprofit, a 501c3. I don't think the city can accept a property like that. At least
Well, we'll check into it with legal people and find out.
Yeah,
If
I
it
think
needs to
that's
be a
more-
501c3, we'll set one up and make it that way,
Yeah.
or whatever it is.
And not to interrupt, but we need to move forward, and all the details,
Right.
we can hash all that out, I'm sure. But, and again, Mayor, the this is your presentation of the abatement process. Anything more you want to add?
No, sir.
Okay.
Have another speaker.
Ms. Hughes, and of course, this will be, anyone who wants to speak this time will be related to the blight abatement progress, report to the mayor. If you have other issues with, code enforcement and so forth, certainly I'll recognize in just a moment when we get to, the city inspector's report. So just hold on for a minute. Thank you, and everything that Cab is doing. I appreciate all of your efforts.
You're welcome.
Next we'll go to Chief of Police, Jimmy Broussard's report. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to be back around the table. In the month of March, Crowley Police responded to 750 calls for service. Included in this number were 10 domestic abuse calls, 116 disturbance calls, 60 suspicious persons, 43 suspicious circumstances, 40 accidents, 6 attempted suicides, 3 simple batteries, and 13 calls for illegal use of a weapon. Our narcotics division has done 4 search warrants in the month of March on known houses where illegal narcotics are being used and sold. 49 arrests were made during the month of March on scene. 19 citations were written by officers this month in the city. In addition, 10 had a total of 111 citations written for the month of March. Also, 2020 violent firearm-related crimes. We had 115 shots fired calls from May 10th to December 31st. During that same time, we had 37 shootings with victims and or property damage. 21 arrests were made on these homicides or attempted homicides, and 33 from May 10th to December 31st were considered gang-related shootings. So far in 2021, firearm calls, we've had 57 to date. We've had 9 homicides or attempted homicides to date, but we have also had 9 arrests on homicides or attempted homicides, 6 of which to be gang-related shootings. We are still in the process of attempting to hire a dispatcher. It seems that we're having issues when it comes to the test, the psychological evaluation. But we are fully staffed other than that. We are also awaiting, we submitted this, the mayor may not know because I submitted it to Ms. Sarah Rudock, the purchase of a possible unit for narcotics, which will come out of the narcotics fund. We brought the things to Ms. Sarah to make sure, this is supposed to be the state bid price, Mayor. So that's why I wanted her to check it and make sure everything was up and up on the state bid price. I know she's had it for a little while, but I know they've been extremely busy as well. And, sir? Yes, sir, out of the narcotics funds, yes, sir. And finally, I'd just like to pass out a few of these. We are out of storage space. The pictures that you see, the very first page actually is the judge's area, which some of you may have seen as you go to the restroom. And then the other ones towards the end are what we've got downstairs. There's no place left for either one of us to do storage of any pertinent records, and laws are changing. I was informed, Captain Malik let me know that laws are changing as far as retention of records. So this will become a worse problem. I know that we're going to be speaking about public buildings in a little while. So I'm just, we actually have them underneath this stairwell. There's cases there, there's files there. We have them in an office at the Enterprise Center. We've got them scattered hither and yon. So just was bringing that to the attention of the council as the storage space, both for the judge and myself, have basically run out.
questions for Chief Russo or from anyone? Mr. Bell?
Please tell me you don't leave weapons in open like that. Or is that just for people?
That was just temporary until they were able to be secured.
What?
I don't know if you're aware, but in the Enterprise Center on the second floor, there's actually a room that was built up there that's enclosed and everything. I don't know what's in it, it's locked.
I believe City Hall's using that for their records, because they ran out of room too.
Maybe we build another room up there.
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
Chief, I've got some email correspondence today, I think Mel responded to about the software. that was part of-
We're still in that process. We're still waiting to get information from Cologic. And my basic function there was just to let the council be aware. It wasn't saying anything other more than this is the frustrations they're facing, just so the council. And I know we have spoken, Mr. Cavell and the mayor, and Captain Osborne and I, we're waiting on some figures of what it would, be to get out. I know we're waiting on Mr. Reagan as well, I think, to talk about the contract, if I'm correct. I think that was one of the things we spoke about. And we're still waiting to hear from Cologic as far as what it would be to do that. So, my email today was just merely information of some of the frustrations, nothing more than that.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
Anything else to add, Chief?
I got a question. Regarding some of the regulations regarding retention of these records, anything relating to potentially putting this on microfiche, microfilm?
There is some, and we're trying to scan some things that we possibly can do. There's some that we cannot do. In fact, Captain Mount was informing me, we were able to keep citations like up to 5 years and had been able to destroy them. But from what I'm understanding, that it may come to a point where we'll have to hold them almost indefinitely, because a person can still come back to attempt to get their record expunged, but they have to have an original copy, which means we have to supply them with that original copy. But we are trying to scan some of the files as best as we can to get them done. Some of your files, the DA is requesting us to keep hard copies of, particularly your more, like rapes and murders and things like that. They're wanting us to maintain those permanent and printed copies as well. But we are trying to scan as much as we can.
And Chief, regarding the evidence, I know we have scanned of paper documents, but all of the evidence that's collected from a crime scene, requirements for storage of that, because I know that some of these pictures show the old jail, which there's no air conditioning, it's not climate controlled.
No.
And we have concerns about evidence being contaminated.
I do. There are concerns about evidence being contaminated. Of course, you definitely want something that's climate controlled to preserve the quality and the integrity of the evidence at all times. It could become quite a huge problem if something went to litigation and it hinged upon the evidence presented.
And could some of these areas, the old jail, be cells taken out and renovated for storage space? I'm just trying to think of.
There's a possibility, but you also have a lot of black mold that is back there that would have to be abated and taken care of. In fact, we try to avoid back there as much as we possibly can because of health.
Yes, and the evidence in there
Right.
being contaminated because of those conditions. Something that definitely needs to be done, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing further from Chief Russo. We'll move on to Fire Chief Louis Romero's report. Chief Romero is not here today, but I'll be happy to read his report. We had 3 structure fires, 14 fire alarms, 12 EMS calls, 2 mutual aid, 2 grass fires, 1 dumpster fire, 1 extrication, 3 vehicle accidents, 6 public assist, 1 assist of the police, and 2 vehicle fires. Total cost was 47. The average monthly response time for March 2021 was 3 minutes and 33 seconds. And also within your packet is a letter from the fire chief to the mayor regarding receipt of a check in the amount of $20,000 from the state of Louisiana from Act 45, Representative John Stefanski, assisted in obtaining these funds to help the fire department acquire some much needed fire equipment. The funds were earmarked for fire equipment only. The fire department used $4,384.50 of the budget to purchase light and siren for the new district chief unit. I'd like to recommend that $4,384.50 be back in line item 146,217, labeled truck and equipment repairs. Also like to recommend the remaining balance of $15,615.50 be put into line item 100-46-123, labeled gear and equipment. I plan on using these funds to buy a battery-powered positive pressure fan to be used to assist the fire department when responding to carbon monoxide calls in people's homes. We will also buy some gas-powered chainsaws for the department. I will use the remaining funds to purchase needed equipment for the fire department that the normal budget just cannot fund. I apologize I cannot be here tonight, but I will be at the council meeting. If anyone has any questions, I can answer them at any time. Signed, Louis Romero, Fire Chief, and along with a copy of the $20,000 check from the State of Louisiana Department of Treasury.
Also, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
If anyone sees Representative John Stefanski, please tell him thank you very much for helping procure this money and also the other money for the Rice Festival buildings.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Tom. Mr. Reggie?
Didn't we, also appropriate some money for one of the fire trucks, last month or the month before that? Couldn't some of this money be used for that too? Since it's under truck and equipment repair?
We can certainly ask the fire chief next week when he's here. I don't have an answer to that. That's Mayor that you know.
And we did appropriate money for the fire truck itself that needed to be repaired, and it was costly, and now we have another one. So, he's asking for these funds to be specifically for this equipment that he wants to buy. Otherwise, it was given to him, and he's asking for y'all to put it on certain lines to where it can be purchased, but it has to be purchased for equipment. That's what it's earmarked for.
Right.
Correct.
And so it can be used to reimburse what we appropriated already. Correct?
But it's, again, it's earmarked for equipment.
Does that answer your question? Until Chief Romero gets out, I really don't have.
to use it for a fire truck. Broken fire truck and use it.
I don't know if that's repairs or like specialized, I think it's specialized
Greater
equipment.
than what you have value, is what you have enough. Yeah.
Okay, so that's Chief Romero's report. Next, we'll move to Inman. Have any questions other than what we've further discussed on the fire chief's report? Now move on to City Inspector Tony Duhon, who is not present at the meeting, but I do have his report that I will read. For the month of March, we sold 10 demo permits for the following properties: 1206 West 8th Street, 1817 Cherry Street, Lot 10, Block 32 of West 2nd Street, 203 Ross Avenue, 515 Northeastern Avenue, and that property was demoed today, just to point that out. 424 East Oak, 213 Southeastern Avenue, 1006 South Avenue L, 812 Hargrave Street, and 201 Southeastern Avenue. Sold 4 new construction permits, North Avenue H to Stymus. Issued 1 safety violation, issued 24 grass violations, and issued 1 abandoned vehicle violation. And that completes Mr. Duhal's report. And I think we have someone from the audience that would like to just comment on code enforcement.
Good evening.
Please state your name.
My name is Teresa Richard, and I live at 1005 East 7th Street, where I've lived for about the last 10 years. And for 10 years, I've been dealing with code violations that stem from a landlord by the name of Mr. Wayne Daly, who owns several properties around my home. Tall grass is a health and safety hazard, whether the mayor and Mr. Daly like it or not. It attracts crime and vandalism. It attracts vermin and disease-carrying pests. It clogs our city drainage, and it deteriorates our property value. Tall grass and trash is a habitual violation for Mr. Wayne Daly, and it is a code violation here in the city of Crowley. For 10 years, I've complained, and for 10 years, the city has done zero to solve this habitual health and safety violation, sir. It's a matter of your community's health and safety, and it affects the most vulnerable people in your community. I have offered each of the members of this city council the opportunity to witness how these complaints are handled that come from members of this community when it comes to tall grass and Mr. Wayne Daly. On March the 19th, I sent an email to all of you with regards to 19 properties here in the city limits. 19 properties that were severely overgrown with grass. 19 properties, many of them belonging to Mr. Wayne Daly. And while the code of ordinance requires, sir, that you send out notifications and that he be given 5 days to take care of the problem, as of today, most of the properties that I have reported to you continue to have violations with the tall grass. Nothing has been done. And while the code calls for you, sir, or this administration, to take action in the way of having him put on a schedule and charging him for the grass to be cut to avoid this problem, this habitual problem, again, you say you spent $37,000 mowing grass, not a single dollar been spent around my house. And it's habitual. And it's habitual for 10 years. I'd like to know, sir, if you can give me an update on those 19 properties that I complained to you about on March the 19th, and when the city is going to step in and protect my neighbors and myself and our health. I'd like a response, sir. I'd like to know what's been happening. I'd like to know because all the grass is still long, nothing's happened, no one's done anything, and, every day that passes is another 2 inches of grass next door to my house. And when he does come and mow the grass, sir, because he did try to come out there and act like he was going to mow some grass today, he leaves it 20 inches on the side of the house and around the bottom of the trees. That's code violation. It's a health and safety violation. He's got trash all over in the yards. There's rats and raccoons and possums. You don't live next door to it. So every day that passes is another 2 inches of grass. And I'd like to know, sir, from the 19th of March when I sent you my complaint, what has happened?
I don't have that answer for you right this second, ma'am.
I sent you an email yesterday for an update, sir. Did you get that email? No, it was like the day before yesterday, was it not? And you have no update for me.
Not at this
Well,
point.
let me give you an update. It's not mowed. It's not mowed. It's still in violation. Now, you give me an update, sir. What's going to happen now? What now?
Ma'am?
What
What's going to happen now?
now?
I will follow up with it in
And how will you follow up with it, sir?
court enforcement.
Okay, I'd like for you to tell me exactly, specifically, how this will be followed up on, sir. Specifically. Have you sent out any notifications to this slumlord? Have you sent out one notification?
Yes.
And so he's had 5 days to take care of this problem.
I can notify you for that in the morning. I don't have it with me right at this moment.
Every day, sir, 2 inches. 2 inches of grass. Every day. It's a health and a safety violation, sir. And the problems that come along with it can make people like me very sick, and have in the past. So I'm tired of asking. I'm Tired of begging. The ordinance says, sir, that you shall take care of it. Not you may, not when you feel like it. It says you're supposed to do it. And I expect that to be done.
Thank you, Mr. Richard. Any other comments regarding code, the city inspector? Mr. Hughes, if you will, kind of keep it briefly, we've got to move on.
Yes, I'll be brief. I just wanted to clarify one thing that we were talking about earlier. Now, there's going to be another attorney that will be able to bounce things off besides Mr. Reagan.
Yeah.
Okay, that's, I want to make sure that, and that, not the same person that's being appointed as a judge.
No, sir.
Okay, good, very good. One other question, when was the $50,000 for Blight allocated?
In the budget.
In the budget.
September
I know,
1st.
when was it, when was the money actually,
September 1st at the budget.
well, I'm sorry,
Actually,
October.
Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was late.
October?
End of October.
It was not close to November, yes.
In a slow grass cutting season, we spent $37,500.
That was last year's. Now we just done this year that we're on now. I'm talking about in 2020,
So what's in it now? We don't know what's in it.
50,000.
Oh, there's 50,000 in it
But
now?
I don't know what the balance is right now.
Okay, well, I'll stop down tomorrow and get with whoever I need to get at the
It'll
time.
take me a little bit to get that information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Under beer and liquor licenses, we have none. Under action items, to consider, I'm sorry. Corrected action. Please state your name.
Natalie Duvall.
Thank you.
I've been all over the place, so I just typed up what I wanted to read to make sure that I cover everything. Many know me from previous city hall meetings, those that don't. My name is Natalie Duvall. My son is Paul Duvall, shot 7 times February 23rd. As I was proceeding to go to Bible study, I get the phone call. The person that told me actually thought I knew, but I didn't. I dropped to my knees. I just recently lost my 24-year-old daughter. 9 months later, my mom, and now my son shot 7 times. No parents wants to hear such news. Seeing my child lying helpless in a trauma unit, and there's nothing that I can do. After all, a mother's job is to protect, to nurture, to provide, and I couldn't do either. He has had many complications during his stay, from the bleeding in the brain, the trach in his throat, the peg tube in his belly. Me walking into his room just a few days ago, and he's covered with blood because an artery burst. He lost so much blood, I became lightheaded and numb. 10 hours later, it happened again. Now he had to have emergency surgery. Every time I'm there, he's crying for me not to leave. He's still in ICU. Probably right now looking at the clock, waiting for me to walk through the door for visitation. But I'm here once again in the same courtroom for the same reason. The violence, the drugs, the prostitution, the abandoned houses, the shooting that happened yesterday, and one that happened early this afternoon. When will something be done? The older generation have killed off each other. I don't recall anyone even really spending time. Right now, we have kids killing kids. Is it because we have failed them? Is it because we haven't held ourselves accountable? Is it because not one of yours is 6 feet under, incarcerated, or in ICU? Is it because it's not your side of town? Tell me what happened if the shooting happens right here at City Hall, like it did in church a year ago, 2 years ago. When I had to bury my daughter, I couldn't even find a venue big enough to hold everyone due to so much violence, and people were scared to allow anyone to rent them. It took the same church that had the shooting to open up their doors to me, for my daughter, to give my daughter a proper burial. She wasn't even a part of the drugs or violence, yet she was discriminated on because of the things that's going on in the city. What if a bullet hits your 78-year-old mother or father, your 97-year-old grandparents as they sitting in the home drinking coffee and watching TV? What if it was your son or daughter that went run to the store and got shot because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time? None of us want to be a part of the problem, but none of us want to be part of the solution. I see Mr. Jimmy saying faithful in the community, answering questions any citizen may have, yet he can't get the help of having more officers. He can only do so much, he's human. I decided to be a part of the CAB because there are entirely too many houses being used for drugs to where half of them are being burned down and just left looking trashy. The prostitution that goes on, hiding places for gangs and drugs, etc. The city is steady declining. So many have left and not coming back. Houses are being abandoned. How long will this go on? Why are there not any cameras, especially in the high crime areas, so that they can catch criminals in the act? Again, what if it was one of your family members and no one wants to speak up about it, but there are no camera footage? Another case going cold. I recall that there was 115 shots fired, calls, 47 attempted murders, 5 murders up to February 2021, and it's more than that now. So many are focused on the recreational center, a stadium, but the city is full of crime, death, and drugs. What's gonna happen when the crime rate gets so heavy and people will not wanna come here because they're afraid of their lives? So now we have a huge stadium, a broke city, and more death and violence. Will we be the next city that's highlighting Jennings when there was the Jennings 7? We are all over 7 now, just as all the prostitutes. Now it's the children, most not making it past 21. We had a chance to see greatness in the city while we were young, but they would never know. The only memories they will ever have is what's going on now. I hate to say it, but my kids have witnessed more death than I have at 43 years old. It's sad and something needs to be done. Don't let my son's condition be in vain. At least allow it to make a change in the city. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Duhon. Next, we'll move to action items. Consider approving the request of Fire Chief Louis Romero to transfer $4,384.50 of a $20,000 grant from the fire department budget, fire equipment budget, to the truck and equipment repairs line item budget, line item 146,217, to pay for the light and siren for the new district chief unit, and referring the matter to the Revenue and Finance Committee for further action. Now, so
Second.
motion moved by Alderman Martin. And seconded by Mr. Goodrich. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 2, to consider approving the request of Fire Chief Louis Romero to transfer $15,615.50 of a $20,000 grant from the fire equipment budget to the gear and equipment budget line item 100-46-123 to purchase a battery-powered positive pressure fan, gas-powered chainsaws, and other equipment needed, and referring the matter to the Revenue and Finance Committee for further action. I so move. Second by Alderwoman Kim Stringfellow. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 3, Alderman Cavell recommended Police Chief Jimmy Broussard perform a study to determine if a 4-way stop sign is justified to enhance public safety at West 14th Street and Taylor Avenue and West 14th Street and Huff Power, and I believe that's Avenue also. And I so moved. Second by Alderman Martin. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Under discussion items, at the request of Police Chief Broussard, I'd like to discuss creating the position of Deputy Police Chief. And Chief, I'll turn the floor over to you to explain what that exactly is and the need for it.
Okay, Deputy Police Chief has been in other jurisdictions and communities around our area, from some so small as Mermentau, Esterwood, to as large as Lafayette, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and all points in between. Eunice has a deputy chief. It's just a position where an existing officer would assume some higher administrative duties, making sure everything is going clockwork, day-to-day activities, which also allows the chief the availability. We have a lot of problems right now that we've heard about, we just heard the report on. It gives the chief the availability and the freedom to be able to be on the street, meeting with the people, meeting with businesses, seeing their concerns. I've been wanting to do that for quite a long time, but a lot of things have kept me at the office. The deputy chief, again, would be able to handle some of that, where some would fall only to the chief, because there's certain things that only the chief can sign. But it would just allow me the availability and to be able to visit our businesses, visit our people, where actions are happening, get more of a feel from the people that I could bring before the council as well. We have some wonderful people who stepped up and said things, but there's some that have not and are scared to. But maybe if I visit with them, and I can bring their concerns anonymously to this council, and we can start making other changes as well as needed.
Mr. Martin?
Chief, you do control your budget.
Yes,
So if you wanna add someone into it, with the understanding that I'm not sure what is the percentage between the chief and the, deputy chief would be from the captain to, that position. But I mean, that's your administration.
well, and yes, sir, it is, but it also has to go through ordinance from the council, and then, of course, we have to go through civil service. This is like a multi-step process. The ordinance would be approved first, but then I would have to go to civil service for examinations. It has to be someone of a sergeant's rank or higher who would take the test. The first one is appointed after, they're appointed, but after they pass the test. But yeah, it's a multi-purpose thing. This is just the first session of it, is bringing before council as an ordinance to have a public hearing regarding such.
Chief, how do you plan to, basically you're adding another level of, my credit to the young lady who's having fallen out of her son and then lost a daughter. And basically they're asking for boots on the street, because you want to add another level of hierarchy in an office where they're needed under a desk. I don't see where that benefits, at what point will this deputy chief, stop the shootings, stop the drug trade? If they're in a desk, they're definitely not starting speeders or any other violations. In the ordinance that was written up, you said there's no expenditure.
At present.
Yeah,
At present.
at present, for 21. So you expect to get it passed this year, but we gotta fund it for next year, is what I'm assuming.
The person, if it was appointed this year, would operate on the same salary. Once budget negotiations would take place, then.
If they move, they gotta be 20% above the captain's salary, so obviously you have where you figure it's gonna be on the same salary.
A deputy chief does not have to be 20%, the chief does. The highest.
Okay, I will defer that, the verification on that.
Okay.
I was told by a credible source that it has to be 20% above the captain's salary. And so they're making this, bringing this, and you're gonna open up another slot. I don't understand where you show.
The deputy chief is not during the stages
We
of
already
the
have
office.
42 people on staff, 15 are patrolmen.
25.
Nevertheless, we've got, if any business operator like that, they'd go bankrupt immediately. Why? Because it's called top heavy. I just don't see where that's actually fighting crime.
The deputy chief would not only be in the office, he would be working just like, I'm not always in the office.
And where is it you actually are doing so much that you have somone do stuff for you? How many hours a day are you actually in your office? When do you start? When do you finish?
I'm actually in my office 9 hours a day.
9 hours a day, okay.
I usually get there about 9:30 in the morning, and I stay till about 6:30 in the evening.
All right.
Which state law says that I only have to work 8 hours a week.
Oh, I know what state law requires, but you have to answer to the public about that, like, which is
True.
a high
Again.
crime.
Yep.
And, in your city.
which is why I do stay longer.
You know, I don't know. I'm gonna read what I wrote, and I said, I personally feel that this board would not be acting in the best interest of the citizens of the city of Crowley, fulfilling our fiscal responsibilities if we allow for this sort of maladministration within our police department to continue. It is evident that there is a great need for fundamental stability, so to bring back a morale that has been missing for some time and to allow our good officers to execute noble policing, so to minimize violent crimes, drug trafficking, as well as to educate our youth to benefit a civil society, all of which has been missing for the past few years and will definitely not be dealt with an addition of another level of red tape within that department. And I'm sorry, Chief, but that's how I feel about adding anything to a department that is unstable at this present.
I will correct you on morale. Morale has gotten better with many.
That's the first time I've ever heard you say morale is getting better within your department. Because normally you come up here and give us a song, sing song and dance, and how morale's bad. So at least morale's up. I don't know what's coming up.
When did I say morale was bad, Alderman?
When haven't you said it?
Did I say it in today's report?
No, you just said this is the first time.
This is the first time you bring it up.
It's the first time you say it openly. First time I'm bringing it up because you're asking for another level of red tape within your department at a rank that's not necessary as I perceive.
I'm gonna research because I don't remember saying morale was bad. I may have, I will research as well as you do research.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Mr. Hughes, you had a comment regarding that particular item?
About this subject here.
Okay.
I was gonna get up here earlier and talk about the need of us having 4 more officers on the road. But to hear that we're gonna take someone that's on the road and move them part-time or full-time off the road makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. You need 4 more officers, but you can't take anybody away from what you got right now. That doesn't seem feasible.
And what's being looked at is not taking an officer off the road.
Well, you say that he's gonna be taking over administrative duties.
We have some who are in the office already.
Right, but we're talking about this one individual. He's gonna be doing administrative duties. So therefore, whatever time, whether it's an hour or 20 a week or 30, he's gonna be off the road for that time period. And you need more officers. Doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry.
That makes it fine.
Just say my mind.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Next, we'll, like to discuss a request to clean the exterior of the criminal justice building, which is the building we're in now, and to examine the police department's budget line item for maintenance of the police department building, particularly cleaning, professionally cleaning this facility that we're in. It has been an eyesore. I have brought this up before. I understand that from the mayor that it is within the police department's budget to maintain the building. And I'd like to know whatever amount is within the budget that's remaining for that purpose. And if we need to appropriate any monies from the general fund to do so, I certainly would like to look into that endeavor. Chief, can you get some bids to clean the exterior?
We can. I will tell you, most of the money you will see from the maintenance of the building, because not only does that deal with the police department, but that also deals with the room that we're in now, the judge's office, the marshal's office, all of those we've had, and the mayor knows we've had to replace 2 to 3 air conditioning systems, if I'm correct. Right, and I think the marshal just had something with his air conditioning, am I correct, Mayor? A repair, okay.
I mean, this building is where.
But that all comes out of the maintenance fund in this budget.
And if you get bids, I would like to see, a firm that is capable of doing just, who did the Keita Parish courthouse building. They did a beautiful job. I'm not sure who that was, but I certainly would like that quality of work to be done here.
We will definitely look into bids for that.
Thank you.
At one time, we did, I'll just throw this out there, just kind of delve into it, it was about 5,000 with one company. But the good part was they were gonna pressure wash it, seal it, and I think they checked it every year. That's part of the event.
I mean, we have got a beautiful, city hall, central fire station, the exterior is maintained. There's no reason why this building continues to look like it does.
Yeah, Brad, there was only $10,000 put in that line item for the budget, so I don't know what's left in it, but there's not a whole lot of money in there. Pay that.
Well,
I think the person you need to ask is what's left in the budget is the department head. So Chief, how much is left in that budget line item?
I must admit, I'm not sure, I didn't bring the budget with me to check, but you might have it.
I have a budget, but do you have how much you've already expended in that line item?
I do not have the latest report, no, sir.
You don't keep track of what your POs and everything?
Yes, sir. Captain Abear,
That's the question on hand.
the maintenance fund. The maintenance fund, building maintenance.
I think it was 17,500.
That we've expended?
No.
No, we have.
In vehicle maintenance is what you.
No, building maintenance.
the building for this,
Criminal justice maintenance and
Criminal justice
repair.
maintenance.
The criminal justice maintenance, I think was, 15,000. I'd have to look to make sure, but I don't know where we at.
You appropriated 10,000 because you expended 9,700, so we appropriated 10,000 for this year. Okay?
And
The question is, how much is left in that line item for there to be cleanup to be done to the building?
yeah, that, I'd have to get it together and let you know.
Okay, and I wanna go back to the other issue. Okay, you're asking for a deputy chief to do work while you're not here, but yet you're already having somebody else do your work. You had to call up the captain to get information that you should have. We call up the fire chief, he has the information. He's not asking for a deputy chief. I'm asking you, why don't you know how much is left in that line item?
Because I do have captains who do that for me.
Okay. That's all, no, I'm saying, so I wanted to know, thank you.
thank you. Next we'll go on, item number 3, Alderwoman Stringfellow requests discussion of status of surveillance cameras and any updates on the grant for the cameras found by the Acadia Parish Police Jury. Ms. Stringfellow.
Yes, my question's for the mayor.
On cameras?
Yes.
I
Have you
think-
been speaking to the police
Yes,
jury?
I have. I spoke to them, a week and a half ago, and they do not have any approval or any grants back just yet.
Okay, are we going to go into a cooperative endeavor with them?
We already are in a cooperative endeavor agreement with them and, on a
For
number of
surveillance
things. On a
cameras?
number of things, but as I already stated back when, it would be on a contingency that they would be able to get that grant.
Oh, I don't remember you stating that.
Okay, well, I did, but anyway, and
So
again,
you are willing to go into a cooperative agreement
Yeah.
with the police jury for surveillance cameras for crime purposes in the city of Crowley?
yes, yes, and contingency on there, yes, absolutely.
Wonderful, Mayor.
Thank you.
Absolutely, and I've already spoken to them about it, and, of course, everyone knows the lady's name is Jade. She is their grant writer, and
Yes.
I've been speaking to her and Mr. Burrell, and of course, they have not gotten any information back yet on the second attempt.
Thank you, and you'll keep us updated?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
May I say one thing, please? My big prompt one.
Yes.
Miss Dugas left, but she wanted to stay because she saw that on the agenda.
Right.
And her comment of a shooting last night and a shooting today, this lady left brokenhearted. So, thank you for approving the cameras. I will message her.
Yes, ma'am.
Nobody responded after she commented, so I'm gonna respond that it was approved. Thank you.
Wait, I think there's a misconception here.
That's what I wanna ask.
Yeah, hold on.
Hand raised,
We-
because there's nothing approved.
That's what I'm trying to do. I got a question.
Because there is.
You're in
Yeah,
agreement.
am I
Now,
wrong?
this is a discussion item.
Right.
I know.
Yeah, but still, you have to recognize. Okay, and I'm glad Emily's here as well as Natalie was here. The word that's going on is that these cameras were already approved and just looking for sites. And I kept telling them, ain't nothing been approved. But yet, when they called, and they said they called City Hall, and City Hall said, yes, the cameras are approved, we just looking for places to put the cameras. Now, which is it? You just said that nothing's happened. I'm gonna call Morrell tomorrow myself with this.
Please do, Mr. Martin.
Because I'm trying to figure out, okay, you telling us what now? That you got a mutual agreement with them for what?
First of all, they asked if we would go into a cooperative endeavor agreement.
I understand.
Yes. And I said, yes.
Okay.
So, once you get in the cooperative endeavor agreement, then we can proceed with an agreement or contingency once.
But I thought this was done already. This guy had, our police gentlemen all on television, on private
I
property.
think they jumped the gun because we don't even know what to.
Exactly.
They don't even know if they got the grant, they don't even know how much the grant is for in comparison to how much the total cost of the cameras are. So whoever went on TV to say what they said, jumped the gun.
Exactly.
That's my point.
Okay, so you want to proverbially put the cart before the horse,
I agree.
not knowing what you have to work with. That's why I was raising my hand and said, no agreement can be made.
Right, that's right. So
But you're asking
basically,
me- But you're asking me
And-
if
and-
I'm willing to do a cooperative
Willing to
endeavor
do,
agreement?
that's
Yes.
right.
Yes.
We're all willing.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes,
That's my understanding. Next number 4, on Water Street, Alabama first discussion on litter and blight citizen committee formed in 2019, and the status of the members, including the president of said committee. Alderman Stringfellow?
thank you, Chair. Yes, Mayor, this is the board or the advisory board, and I don't know, I just want some clarification. Is the CAB, are they taking over for this board? Because we had several meetings before COVID, and then we just stopped
Oh, that's
completely.
right. And we can,
And, you know, the president of that board, advisory board, quit in December, and no one told this council that that president had quit. We didn't know that 2 other members of that board had quit. So pretty much that advisory board was defunct, you know, and none of us knew. I didn't know until March.
well,
And I'm not finished.
I'm sorry.
And, you know, I didn't know if CAB would be taking over, or, I mean, because that's an ordinance, that litter and blight advisory board is set in ordinance, we passed that. So, I just, you know, need some clarification on that and why we weren't told.
The clarification is that at the last meeting, I think, that you had said that because of COVID and different other reasons, we have not met, or y'all have not met, and I totally understand
Well,
that.
I am not on that board, you know, I'm not on it.
You-
I can't be on it, I'm on the city council. So
You
I was
can-
not on the blight and litter board, no, I was going to a few of the meetings as you were to help them start.
To get
And
started.
get started, and I would take, minutes,
Okay.
and, but no, I was not on that board.
Again, my intention is not to hand it over to the CAB, because there is an advisory committee that was set up.
Have you, found someone for the president, or have you
Was
reached
gonna
out
ask-
to
When we have another meeting, I was gonna ask a particular person if they would assume those duties.
and reach
That
out to
duty, I'm sorry.
the other members and
Yes.
make sure that they're still there, and
Yes.
they're gonna meet and everything, because that's
Absolutely.
your job, it's not my job.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Do we know when the next meeting will be, Mayor?
Not right at this second, no, sir.
Thank you. Next, discuss the request of Chief of Police Broussard for the police department to use office space within the enterprise center. Chief, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Well, that was just in reference to the pictures that I showed you about storage.
Yes. Mayor, is space available there? I know Mr. Prater mentioned upstairs is a big room.
Again, if it has to be climate controlled and so forth and so on, it's gonna take a little bit more than just saying, okay, there's a space available. So, you know, we have to figure out, if it's gotta be climate controlled, you have to figure out how we're gonna get all this stuff up there. How are we gonna maintain it? Where are we gonna get the funds from the maintainer. Climate control requires air conditioning, requires wall contractor refurbishing or redoing that particular floor. Maybe, it just, it's a lot more information detailed than just answering the question, saying, yeah, go ahead and use it, it's available.
No, exactly.
Yes, and then that,
Needs to be more investigations done.
oh, absolutely, absolutely, and trust me, the judge has already approached me too on this as well. And again, another matter.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Crater?
How about the Chamber of Commerce space that they were renting, they moved out, so that's office spaces, that's climate control, it's.
And that's under, and the chief and I and the judge and I have talked about that already. And that is under renovation, and we're trying to get that back. I know they were not paying anything because that was an agreement that they made years ago, the Chamber of Commerce, that is.
Yes.
And now we're looking to be able to at least get income from that, for that space, as soon as it's renovated. Now, in the meantime, until we get someone, there is a possibility that we could maybe temporarily store it. I've already told the chief that, I've already told the judge that. There might be a possibility that we can temporarily store things in there until we do get someone to be able to rent that space. That's a possibility.
I guess that they will run back into the.
And we have, and then if we,
But,
and if we get a chance to be able to rent that space to someone, like assist, workforce, so forth and so on, if another agency comes up like those people, we have to have a space to give it off to them. And then we'll have to find another spot to temporarily house their records or whatever it may be.
It seems like we need to look for some permanent storage.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bell?
The other thing I think comes into play is the sensitivity of the material you plan to store. I mean, you don't want to, you can't just store anything up there that maybe, makes it, I don't know, that could be personal information that anybody may have access to, that would have a key.
Correct, it would have to be secure, a lot of ramifications, I'm sure.
A little premature, at this point.
Right, but just for discussion purposes.
What about using, the Wells Fargo building until they can find a space? Ain't nothing going on in that building, okay?
Yeah, there's people there every other.
I thought it was outside.
It's inside.
Well, one time you wouldn't even rent the building, so I don't know.
They were outside, Mr. Martin, you are correct, but now they're allowed to go inside with a certain amount of percent.
I just brought it up.
That's a good idea.
It's critical.
But the topic for discussion here is not the evidence stuff, it's the office space that I think that it says here, so I think we're getting off on the tangent of something different. I think what Chief's asking for is for office space, or is this for?
He said in reference to the pictures is why we mentioned.
Right, for storage,
What-
mainly for records, I mean,
That would be the air conditioning space.
right, climate controlled.
You're referring to the office space within the
Right.
warehouse, not the warehouse.
Correct.
That you mentioned above, okay. Thanks for clarifying. Next, I'd like to have a discussion on replacement of damaged and or missing sections of sidewalks within the city's historic district, Meyer Park, which is located on East Seventh and Eighth Street between North Avenue I and North Avenue J, and other areas of concern. Mayor, I mentioned this to you, for years, we have severe sidewalk problems, especially out public parks, where it's created a severe trip hazard. I think that particularly within the historic district, with tourism, we need to, and the parks, we need to have safe and secure sidewalks. I know that we have a former proposal from Mr. Maynard to remove all of the sidewalks and try to replace them. That's not what I'm talking about. That $6 million ticket, it's not even reasonable. What I'm looking for is to pinpoint those areas that are the worst portions in Crowley, and get the city or the city's contractor to do some repairs of those sections that are a safety hazard.
Tell you what I can do, if each council member in their respective districts would look at your parks and to make note of any of those places like Mr. Ford is talking about, and bring it to my attention, please write down the specific location. I will be more than glad to have our people to go look at it, and if it's too much a job or it's too big of a job for us, we can get, providing that our budget will allow. And to be able to work
Yes,
and
and
getting that done.
I know we've had got some areas where, homeowners have requested those sidewalks be removed, but now what we're finding are pedestrians in the street, because they're not walking in on the sidewalk, they're walking literally in the street, they're at night, and I see it constantly, and it's just another safety hazard. And I think it's a duty that the city has to provide, a sidewalk for pedestrians to use as originally intended. But I would definitely, look at my part in those areas. Thank you. That will end my, discussion items and the other items to come before the committee.
I have
Oh,
one.
I'm sorry, Desi.
And I'd like to address the council as a whole. The first thing starts with, I was messaged on the weekend at midnight by a council member upset about something. That is absolutely unprofessional and unacceptable to be messaging me at midnight unless it is an emergency or you're calling me to go cover something. And it's still too late. I mean, I had work the next day. Okay, so moving past that, I have been told that there has been more car thefts, which me and Chief have discussed, in town than I'm hearing of. I heard of one, and the car was left on in the driveway. Okay. So then I heard of another. A car got stolen, and then a car from the same house got stolen the next night or something. One of those cars was still missing. I'll call Chief. Chief and I had a conversation about it. I am being told that there are, not by Chief, by the council person who contacted me at midnight, that there are many more cars being stolen than I know about. So I don't know if that's true. I asked Chief to see. I don't know what the story with that is. I think everyone would agree that I report on anything someone tells me about if I think it's in excess or something. One stolen car is one thing, but 3 stolen cars in a house that had 2 cars stolen in the same night is kind of a different story. And I just didn't like being addressed the way that I was. And I did not get police reports for a bunch of stolen cars. So it's not from my lack of reporting. And I just would like to address the council and ask that people don't contact me being ugly to me at midnight over things of that nature. If you have a problem with what's being reported, please contact the chief. Because he would know who's been stealing cars. I don't know. I only knew of these 2. So I just thought that was very ugly, and I wanted to address the council as a whole. I don't want to pick anyone out, but it upset me. I was sleeping when this person, they also contacted me at 9, and I told them it was well past business hours to contact my boss. I was then contacted at midnight. I would just like for this to be open and in the clear for people to know, because that's inappropriate.
Just to clarify, you're saying someone.
Right,
And
that
an
was me.
elected official contacted me at midnight.
Let's get
yes.
straight. I was the council that did that. And I apologize, but first of all, I could care less. Let's get straight. First of all, your name was nowhere on the article that was in the newspaper.
You contacted me.
I
At
said,
midnight, sir, at 9 when I told you it was inappropriate.
you right,
It's
I
not
did.
professional.
You right, I did. And I could care less if it's unprofessional. I asked you a question.
At midnight, sir?
I could care less if it's at 2 in the morning.
That's not professional, and an elected official should not be contacting someone at midnight over something.
I did.
I have office hours.
Let's get straight. You
I don't have to give
you
my
can mention my
personal
name.
numbers.
I could care less. I'm a grown man.
Sir, it's unprofessional to contact me at midnight unless it's an emergency.
I could care less.
Okay. Well, I report on what I know, and I just want to make that clear.
And the
I ask
situation where
all
it
the other
goes.
council to please not contact me at midnight, or I will take
Well,
no personal phone calls from anyone.
Let's open the
Thank
can of worms then. The article in the paper was stated when 2 cars got stolen in Bayou Bend, it hit the paper. I could care less. I'm not even talking to you.
Let's move on. Y'all can pick up this conversation later. I didn't mean to,
It was insinuated that I reported on something because of a certain side town, that is not true.
That's
I
something
report
that-
upon what I know,
That's
and I
something,
don't appreciate this. This is not fair to me, you harassing me in that capacity,
okay, we're
because that
gonna,
is not true about me.
yes, we're
I
gonna move
walk
on.
all over this town and I'm nice to every person, and that is inappropriate and unprofessional to be
That's it.
contacting me at that time.
We're gonna move on. Are there any other legal items to come before the committee? And the committee recess.
Thank you. Next is public buildings, Mr. Wilbridge.
Public business convenes on April 6th at 4 p.m. We had a forum. And the purpose of the said meeting was to get some clarifications. And we've been in council almost 27, 28 months. And y'all don't like what I say, I could care less, really. But we've been kicking this can down the road since we came apart. When we started in December, all these buildings, and none got done on them. I just named 6 of the public buildings for the city of Crowley. And all of them got problems. There's not one public building, well, maybe the city hall building that you in, that don't have a problem. But every building I named came across this city council that got problems to it. And we ain't fixed a thing in none of the buildings. And I just left to trying to get some clarification on what's going on, or the repair for the chief building. Brad brought up washing the outside or whatever, inside. I did mention outside too, but the fire station, the last we know, we was looking at an architect.
Yes, sir.
We ain't heard nothing from the fire station, what's going on. But the first building is the criminal justice system. Is there any update or repair we got for that one?
We just discussed that earlier about the criminal justice building. On, the chief's gonna look at getting bids.
I agree with you, sir.
Okay. Next, go ahead, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
And on the fire station,
On the fire station, y'all, agreed to allow me to be able to get, contacted with a, architect. We did. We had to submit it, which took a little while. We had to submit it to the fire marshal's office, which we did get the okay to move forward. And we did, and now I've handed it to some, contractors, and I'm waiting back on some pricing.
and, I guess I started this can of worms earlier, when my co-counsel brought up the MAK center. But to be right, the mayor did contact me and Steph, and he was right. I had a permit that day, and I never got back with the mayor, to get back with him on the architect and what the architect said and find it. So he did reach out to me. So I'm not saying it's the mayor's fault, actually it's my fault, I didn't get back with the mayor. But I bring up these things not to point fingers at nobody. It's just that through the whole system, even though we got one thing on our plate, we got a lot of other things on our plate that need to be addressed. And it's not pointing fingers at nobody and all that. Me and Mr. Kirsch talked about the recreation department, the lights, the poles. If there is electricity to the main circuit breaker on the pole, to put up lights, and to make sure the lights is on at the MAK Center Ballpark. I would agree with my co-part that the organization out there that's doing some kind of corrected activity for kids and using their headlight for light. But me and Mr. Peter Kirsch got that, whatever they doing is also not part of the recreation guidelines and a legal program for Mr. Peter Rec Department baseball football that he's run. So Mr. Peter did, me and him talk, that he allowed to talk to he wanted to talk to the people, to see what's going on, to see if it's something that we could bring to the rec department underneath the rec head and earlier, I don't want nobody to get arguing, fussing over certain things, because at the end of the day, be here for the city of Crowley. We don't get paid nothing, really. We doing it for the love of the city of Crowley, and that's what it's all about. Yeah, we could have disagreements among ourselves in here, but once we get out of those doors, everything should stay in here. If you're doing it for the right reason. And I don't know, Peter, you want to talk, I didn't probably say everything you need to say about the MLK Center. Well, me and you did talk about the bathrooms and stuff like that. You told me the mayor did have an architect, and I never got back with the mayor to see what the plans were.
Where we're at with the lights we had discussed, Mr. Woodward and I, and what had been discussed before, and taking some of the fixtures that were still working and operable from the rec department on Mill Street and moving it to the MLK Center. Those lights, that lighting system, I don't know if it's the proper term or I don't know what happened, but for the last 7 years, it was inoperable since I've been in office. And I don't know why it was abandoned or not maintained. That's beyond my time, and it's a waste of time to figure out why. But what we're gonna look to try to do is move forward and get them operable again. And I think we have a very unique situation that we can get this project done for a good fee because we have the most expensive parts in the material, the fixtures, the bulbs, the transformers, even have some poles that are probably in better condition that came down than what's out there. But what we need to do is get an electrician out there to give us a complete look from the transformer to the light bulbs and what it's gonna entail, because I'm certain, since it's been inoperable for the last 7 years, there may be some poles that have to be replaced. We're gonna probably have to pull down the old fixtures and replace the wires, but again, it's a minimal cost, and I think we can even add more lighting than what was out there before. And what Mr. Wilbert and I spoke about, because he told me that there are a group of citizens that are out there that are using the park, and it's a great thing, because when you use property for what it's intended for, the things, the undesirables, tend to move away from it. But what I had recommended to Mr. Woolridge was, if there's that big of a desire for things that are outside of what we know as recreation, basketball, baseball, football, tennis, soccer, I'm willing to sit and listen and hear other ideas, and we can get, I think it's a kickball league that's interested. And those are the things that I'm not one-track mind. I'm open to ideas and expansions. And like I said, when we're using the properties, tennis courts and all of those things for the correct reasons, I've seen it. It happens. Look at the tennis courts on Mill Street. The surveillance systems, yes. I know that was a topic earlier. We put it out there, and when the cameras are around, it stops. And I've heard discussions and concerns about the things going on in our city that we're trying to get corrected. It's unfortunate that we have those things, but we're not immune to it. But, you know, when we're using the properties for the right reasons and they're occupied with people every weekend doing the right things, we don't have the things that we don't want there. So I'm all ears. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Springfield?
Thank you, Chair. Is there any way that CLECO could help us with the poles or anything out there, or
I've
is
spoken
that?
to Mr. Badgeron before about poles, and they do come at a cost, even the wooden poles. However, I do feel that we have poles that could be reused, that are in a light new condition, that we can still get 10 years of service out of, without having to go brand new right now. And I don't know, we may hear from an electrician that says those poles are still solid, and we can go with that. But I think where we're at right now with it's not a super high cost that we would have to start from scratch. I think it's very feasible. Yes, sir.
That's great.
Those, there was a bunch of LED lights that were installed in the ballparks before all of this new lighting came about. They're gonna be reused, or is that something that could be used over there?
They can be reused, yes, sir.
So you're gonna reuse them at the rate?
We have 12 fixtures that were installed that we're gonna reuse, and from what I understand, I have to check. I don't wanna give you a solid answer. I know that we have permission to reuse them within the Mill Street complex, but I don't think it would be, I mean, if we're using them and we know where they are, we could relocate them.
Maybe something to think about.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Peter. I thank you for what you're doing too.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, update on the enterprise center?
Yes, sir, we have done some work to that building, and that was emergency work after the storm. We, as a matter of fact, I did get an email today in reference to our insurance claim, and we hopefully to finalize, and of course, I apologize, it just takes so long. And just to let y'all know, there was an extensive damage to that building, about $265,000 note. So, anyway, I got an email today, we're trying to finalize Hurricane Laura, we haven't even gotten to Delta yet. So the Enterprise Center, hopefully, and everybody keep in mind, if you know anything about insurance, we have a 2% deductible. So the city is gonna be having to fund a lot of this damage, because on a named storm, you start talking about $3, $4, $6 million, 2% of all that is quite a bit of money. We have multiple buildings that took some damage, and, which you won't even cover the deductible. So hopefully we'll be able to take the majority of these claims, and apply, what we're going to get to the Enterprise Center, because it has sustained the most damage. And it included, and I'm gonna tell you, they had to total the whole roof on that building.
Yes, sir.
That was a lot. So, just to let y'all give you an update on that.
On anything on the West Fargo business, sir?
Wells Fargo building was also damaged, but very slightly. We did have a little bit of minor repairs done to it. And we still got a couple more, not much, nothing major, but.
Ms. Springfield?
Are we renting the Wells Fargo building? Are we getting any, like, a little bit out of the Enterprise, the Wells Fargo building? I mean,
We're getting
some
money
or-
from the Enterprise, definitely because of those spaces that are rented.
But there's only like two, right?
There's three.
There's three in there? What about the Wells Fargo building?
The Wells Fargo building is up for rent, but every other weekend there is, I'm sorry. Yes, the farmer's market, I was gonna say one Crowley that has the farmer's market that you as a council approved for them to be able to have.
Mhm.
So in between that, if someone wants to rent it, we'll have to work
What
with
about
that.
the Rice, I'm sorry, I may be jumping the gun, but what about the Rice Theater? Is it rentable or?
It's gonna be repaired, and it's gonna be rentable. Hopefully we'll have the marquee repaired next couple of weeks. I was told, by the contractor that the marquee will be repaired before our Clean City contest. So I'm hoping that, keeping our fingers crossed and prayers said, and that will be done.
Anything on the animal shelter, sir?
You have to be, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, you have to be a little more specific on repairs for the animal shelter.
I got a question.
When before COVID hit and stuff like that, we donated items for maybe cages. They wanted another shelf built.
Yes, you know what, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I wanna thank Mr. Martin. I went out there and I visited and I heard Mr. Martin had built some shelves over there, and we thank you, Mr. Martin, for that.
Why was the jacuzzi not used?
Because I'm very concerned about safety hazards, so I'm trying to get them a damaged shower that stands up. I'm worried about somebody, a volunteer or whoever it may be, to trip and fall in that jacuzzi, and you donated that jacuzzi, and we know it.
No, we all chipped into that.
Okay, I'm very concerned about that jacuzzi being filled up and someone being unattended and fall into that thing and drown. I'm very concerned. Not saying that it could happen or not happen. I was just concerned about liability issues. So I asked Ms. Kelly if she would consider having some kind of a little shower, you know, where it could be a stand-up shower with a drain. And she said yes. And so we're looking into getting that. We are in the process right now. As a matter of fact, Mr. Cody, the animal warden, went out there and he striped all of the grass. We're gonna have some they call them runs. We're gonna have some runs built very soon, hopefully next week. And there were some cages that needed attention, kennels that needed attention on the inside. Those are repaired. Those have been repaired. There were, that I can remember, there were no other damages by hurricane at the facility.
They had talked about another little shelter house or something for cats.
They did, they got it.
They got it.
Yes, sir. They got it. Very nice. I want to tell you, the Hacias group is doing a phenomenal job. And they have their extra house for cats. They also got another house, shed donated to them for additional storage. They have that in place. We also got a plumber to be able to make sure, because whenever we had a state inspection, the state inspector said that we had to have hot water to that particular shed. So we made sure that they have proper utilities and the proper needs for that particular cat shelter. So, but I gotta say kudos to Hacias. They're amazing. They are.
Man, do we know if the air conditioning, unit was installed, I remember last fall?
Yes. It was installed. It was installed, yes, sir. Not in the location that I wanted it to be, but it's okay. It'll work. A little bit too close to those exhaust fans. We might have to relocate it, but that's okay.
There was no action items on the discussion item. I just had a question about the old bag, Cajun bag.
Yes, sir.
Building that to get the city on or something, that, what we gonna do with it,
It's up for sale. Anybody wants to buy it, please. We've had an appraisal, bear with me, Nick Williams, I think.
Right.
Is that correct? Am I saying it correctly?
Right.
He was one of the people who showed interest in purchasing that building. We had an appraisal done on it. And he chose not to purchase it. But we do have an appraisal, so anyone interested in purchasing that building, please do.
Mayor, would it be possible to
you know
get
how much
a,
it's gone for?
Uh,
What is the price?
I think it was 60,000. Don't quote me, I would rather look it up. I have it on file. I would rather look it up to give you that exact number.
and Mayor, could we get a for sale sign put on, because, you drive by, it's in bad condition, and it just sits there, and most people don't know if it's for sale or not.
Ms. Cabell?
Wouldn't it have to be on bid? Not an outright sale?
That I'd have to check with Mr. Reagan to make sure.
What building is
Let me make sure, that's the one, the old taking bag on the first, corner of First and North Avenue C that was donated to the city of Crowley. And there were no prohibitional provisions in that particular sale, we do that. Yeah.
One more question.
Go ahead.
Mayor, the public works bill, you know, gutters are falling off the front.
That was damaged, and that's all part of the insurance claims.
Okay, great.
Roll-up doors were damaged,
Yes.
all of,
And,
it
you know,
took a little bit.
yes, and a lot of the exterior side is
Yeah,
stained.
that's all part of it,
It
that's all
needs
part
a
of it.
facelift.
Yes, sir.
So that's great.
That's everything listed, man, we tried to be as thorough as we could with the adjusters, and we had two different adjusters at two different times. And it was a
And of
difficult
course,
task.
the fence in the back is laid over, that, you know, that needs to be shored up.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Ditch. Thank you.
And again, just to remind everyone that we did do emergency work, you know, like one of those roll-up doors
Yes.
got blown in, and we had to get a contractor to come out and, you know, be able to secure that building.
Ms. Springfield?
So the only buildings, that weren't, hurricane damage were the animal shelter and, this building?
Which one, ma'am?
This building and the animal shelter are the only ones that didn't have some
This
type of
building-
hurricane
This
damage?
building sustained a little bit.
So just the animal shelter is the only one that didn't have any hurricane
As far as
damage?
City Hall did sustain damage, but we had leaks that came in, and it was probably from wind blowing or wind driven rain. Yes. We didn't
So
sustain.
just
City
the
Hall did
animal
not-
shelter? Just the animal shelter didn't have any,
Yes,
for a claim, is what I was,
yes.
okay.
What about this?
This building also was wind driven rain that was caused by the hurricane.
Thank you.
And before I recess, I apologize, because when most of y'all sleeping, I'm up. It's just from military days and PTSD. And I get a brainstorm, and I just pick my phone up and text right there. I don't mean anything by it. It's just I have a hard time going to sleep at night, and I'm up, so. I apologize, and I'm gonna talk to Desiree personally. I don't mean to text people for the end of the morning, I understand, but it's just something that I'm going through, that's all. I wanna apologize to the council and the mayor.
And Mr. Williams, thank you for your service too.
Yes, indeed.
No other actions or nothing in the orders for public building rest.
All right, thank you. Next is
Good,
insurance,
because I don't answer to the next
insurance
meeting.
personnel, the street color.
Okay, I'm gonna make this short and sweet. Insurance and Personnel Committee will convene. There are no action items, and there are no non-action items. And we will recess.
You hold the record tonight. Okay, next is community and economic development, Mr. Reddy.
Thank you, Mayor. We have all people present. Under action items, I have none. Under non-action items, I will mention that the car show, they're supposed to have a meeting tomorrow at 5 p.m. to figure out about the rain delay. If there is a rain delay, they're talking possibly Sunday instead of Saturday. And I think Val said she would put a Facebook post and let everybody know.
What is that for, man?
Sir?
What is that for?
Car show.
Oh, that's right, it's going on this weekend.
It's supposed to be Saturday, but it looks like it's 67% chance of rain, so they may move it to Sunday.
Since they won't rain, so you're all right.
Yeah. But they're gonna have a meeting tomorrow at 5 and then they'll get the word out, so it's either Saturday or possibly Sunday. Number 2 would be Clean the City Contest is now scheduled for May 4th. I think that's a Tuesday? I think it's a Tuesday. And so far, we're gonna do, city cleanup days, the 2 previous Saturdays, which will be April 24th and May 1st. And I'll get with Val and we'll put some times together for the, we put a little route together. A couple bad areas we'll get together. I think she said you had a couple civic groups you were talking to also.
Yes, sir. And some baseball, softball teams too.
Okay, awesome. There's no
like to send a kudos out to Alderman Reggie for assisting Ms. Valerie, and also Ms. Claire Dore for designing. I wish I would come by City Hall, maybe purchase you a shirt. They designed some new shirts. They're at City Hall, they're on display, and very, very nice shirts. Very, very clever of y'all. Nice. Kudos to them guys. And Sammy's been helping, Alderman Reggie's been helping also, and he's volunteering his services to be able to kind of help redo our signs. Just to let everyone know, we have, Sammy, I apologize. We do have the 2 welcoming signs that are ready. We're trying to hurry up and get them set up for the, where Interstate 10 is. Also, we have one, on North Parkson. And then we have another one that's ready to be put out, coming in from South Highway 13. And also, Mr. Reggie volunteered his services over in, on West Highway 90, coming into Crowley. He's gonna hopefully spruce that up a little bit, get that working. So we'll be looking good on all of our welcoming signs, so.
Thanks all.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, we'll move to Revenue and Finance, Mr. Cabell.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Revenue and Finance Committee convenes, all are present except Alderman Primo. Under action items, a resolution of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Crowley authorizing a standby letter of credit to be issued by the First National Bank of Louisiana on behalf of the City of Crowley for the benefit of the Louisiana Office of Workers' Compensation in an amount not to exceed $300,000, and to authorize a revolving line of credit up to $300,000, evidenced by a promissory note in the amount of the letter of credit, to authorize the pledge of an unencumbered certificate of deposit as security for the standby letter of credit, and to provide for all matters relative thereto and in connection therewith, and I so move.
Second.
Well, motion and a second, any discussion? Yes, Mr. Reggie?
I think we've done this before, right? It's like a yearly thing.
Yes, this is basically the fund you have to have in order to have your workers' comp. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Under number 2, to consider approving an appropriation of funds in the amount of $10,000 to cover the costs associated with the Mayor and Crowley Board of Aldermen attending 2 events hosted by the Louisiana Municipal Association. Number 1, the annual LMA Municipal Day Crawfish Ball in Baton Rouge on May 5th, 2021. And 2, registration, travel, and accommodations for the 2021 LMA Convention this summer. And I so move.
Why don't you state what the convention is for the record?
I don't think the date's been set just yet.
It should be done.
I'll comment on it in just a second,
Okay.
Mr. Chair. I'm sorry.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Continue. I'm just waiting for your vote and your discussion.
I need a second to discuss. We have a motion and a second discussion. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir. Okay, Mr. Martin, if I'm not mistaken, it has been said that it was gonna be in July, that's the LMA conference. It was gonna be held in July, and it is in Baton Rouge, yes, sir, you are correct. If you'll notice in your packet, you have a copy of Crawfish Ball. Okay? This now will be held May 5th, but in order for us to be able to have, we have to be able to notify these people like ASAP. So I'm gonna need for each one of you, if you decide by Monday, I need for you to let Ms. Jones know by Monday, okay, at the end of the day, Monday, let her know that if you would like to attend or not. If you wanted a guest, delegate, whoever it is, it's self-explanatory, tells you the cost. But anyway, the city will pay for you, but not your guest, okay? And that is for that particular crawfish farm. But we need to know by Monday so we can get all this prepared and turned in.
Why don't you do it now? That way you can go and get the hotels, man. 'Cause look, they got 2 areas where the hotels are, and once they fill, they're gone.
Now, the hotel, since it's in Baton Rouge, the hotel would be funded by you, not by the city.
But I'm just saying, I mean.
Oh, yes, absolutely, you wanna block them, yeah. Well, they have blocked, I'm sorry, they have blocked some hotels. they have blocks and rooms, so that's why it's important that we get this out there.
The street dog?
What if we don't use all of that money? I mean, we're gonna allocate $10,000, but what if we all don't go or something? I mean, what is?
Now, this is not just for this crawfish ball. The
Okay,
$10,000
right.
that you're appropriating
Right,
is to be able to amend the budget to allow all of you to be able to go to the LMA convention, which is very expensive.
okay.
Mr. Core?
Question I have, is the crawfish ball during the convention
No.
or is it separate?
Separate.
And what's the purpose of the crawfish ball other than meet and greet?
Camaraderie.
Hey, you know what time the crawfish ball is, right? This is at 7 o'clock that evening. I mean, I think it kicks off at 7.
It's
And
during the week.
that was gonna be my question, I mean, this hotel stay, I mean, to the crawfish ball, I don't know, I'd like to know what that expense would be, because I certainly believe the LMA convention is very beneficial.
This used to be because of, I think because of COVID, probably, I'm not sure what their
Right.
reasoning behind it. They put it at 2 separate days, and they haven't pinned down an exact date for the LMA convention, but I heard it was in July.
Yeah, but there's two different, this is legislation day. It's when we go to the Capitol with all the legislation.
What,
That's
May
during the
5th?
day.
The May 5th one?
Right, the one in May. But now the difference is the crawfish ball is at night.
Yes,
So basically, I mean, you won't leave there till probably around 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So why isn't the city paying for the hotel for that?
we never did.
Yes, well, I
No,
mean,
sir, we never did.
well, what I'm trying to say is the fact of the matter, it's kind of hard for people, I mean, I'm having a problem with it, but I'm just trying to say, something like that, that's when you invite, your legislators over to the crawfish ball, is what it is. And it's, I don't eat crawfish, but I mean, it's no big deal to me. Usually we would go to all the different workshops, but I'm not even going.
Just Ms. Jones needs to know by Monday, at the end of the day, Monday, please, if you are attending, just have your information ready for her.
That's for the crawfish ball?
All the crawfish ball, not LMA.
I
Just the crawfish ball is what she needs by Monday. Not the hotel either, that's for you to book in.
So basically, of the $10,000, we're talking about $30 per council member to attend a crawfish ball. Because no hotel, will be on our own time to decide to stay.
It always has been in the town.
Right,
No,
It always has been in the town.
right, for this,
Yes,
okay.
but he's including,
Go ahead.
he's including in that the conference in July, that'll be in at $10,000.
yes,
Right?
Right,
Yeah.
that's correct.
absolutely.
You have one, in the resolution, you have one, and then two.
If you look at it, it
Yes.
shows two for the
Right,
LMA.
and what I was wanting to know, how much of that 10,000 goes to the crawfish ball?
Well, it depends on how many people.
Well, let's just say we all go, we're not
Say if
talking
we all-
about a significant
Well,
amount.
I don't
You got
know.
10 people, that's
Are you gonna have a gas?
Right, right.
I don't-
Well, Jeff,
So it
we're
goes
looking
500.
at-
Say 500.
We could say 600,
That's not
we could say
500,
600.
Okay, right, so it's not an extreme amount.
Oh, no, but if you have gas, could be. I mean, not
Yeah,
extreme
we're not
amount.
paying for
But not
gas.
on behalf of the city.
Yeah,
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. On to number 3, to consider approving the request of Fire Chief Louis Romero to transfer $4,384.50 of the $20,000 grant from the fire equipment budget to the truck and equipment repairs budget line item 100-46-217 to pay for the light and siren for the new district chief unit. And I so move.
Second.
And second, any discussion? Yes,
I guess I'll say it again, maybe I'm not understanding, do we really need some lights and sirens for a district chief unit when you have trucks that have transmission problems and stuff? I don't really know.
well, I would suggest, since he's not here to answer that.
Okay,
No, let it go, you know, the only way you're gonna get that answer is basically have it go to the council.
The next week?
Next week, when he'll be here,
Okay.
and you can ask and make a decision then.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye, all opposed? Ayes have it. On to number 4, to consider approving the request of Fire Chief Louis Romero to transfer $15,000 61550 of the 20,000 grant from the fire equipment budget to the gear and equipment budget line item 100-46-123 to purchase a battery-powered positive pressure fan, gas-powered chainsaws, and other equipment needed. And I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by Ms. Stringfellow. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Number 5, to consider approving architect Joshua Fowler's recommended change order 1 for the Rice Festival building renovation and repairs construction contract with E.L. Habit Builders to include the replacement of the roof at the estimated cost of $220,000 contingent upon the approval of the Louisiana Division of Administration Office of Facility Planning and Control, and to approve the appropriation of the amount up to $65,000 to cover the required local 25% match, and I so move. Second. It's been seconded by Mr. Core. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. There's no other legal counsel to go before the council, and the Revenue and Finance Committee recess.